This page showcases the front cover of a guidebook for Sega GT, Homologation Special on the Dreamcast. It's part of a complete strategy series and is advertised as the fastest setting guide. The cover highlights it's an essential book for players aiming to master the game's best settings. Published by Futabasha and edited by Fighting Studio, this guidebook is clearly focused on helping players optimize their performance in Sega GT. This page is dedicated to the Sega Dreamcast game, Sega GT Homologation Special. It appears to be advertising a strategy guide for this racing game, part of a perfect strategy series for the Dreamcast, specifically number 5 in the series. The page features the game's logo prominently and includes a wireframe image of what looks like a racetrack, giving players a preview of the kind of in-depth information available in the guide. The text suggests it is a guide focused on achieving the fastest car setups for optimal racing performance. This page is the front cover of the strategy guide for Sega GT Homologation Special. It prominently features the Sega GT logo in red, along with the subtitle Homologation Special, and the Japanese text, which also reads Sega GT Homologation Special. Underneath this, in larger red Japanese text, it states Fastest Setting Guide, clearly indicating the focus of this guide is on achieving optimal car setups for speed in the game. The page is bordered with a black and white checkerboard pattern, reinforcing the racing theme. This page is the introduction to the guide. It starts by describing the desire to drive a fully tuned high-power machine, aiming for top times and tackling corners at high speed, specifically over 200 kilometers per hour. However, it acknowledges the common problem of not knowing how to properly set up the car to achieve this. The page clarifies that this book, the Sega GT Homologation Special Guide, is designed for players of that game who are facing these setup dilemmas. It explains that the guide aims to resolve these issues and teach players about what fast driving entails. By understanding the fundamentals, tuning, and the direction of car settings, readers should be able to customize their machine settings to their liking. It concludes by mentioning that the overall structure of the guide is outlined in the following sections. Visually, the page features several in-game screenshots of cars, showcasing different models and racing scenarios, likely to illustrate the context of the game and the types of cars players can tune and drive. This page outlines the contents of the guide, breaking it down into 6 key chapters to help players master Sega GT. Chapter 1 delves into the fundamentals of high-speed driving, examining acceleration, deceleration, and cornering techniques to achieve faster lap times by understanding car behavior in different driving situations. Chapter 2 focuses on setting and tuning parts available in the game, explaining how each part impacts the car's performance and handling. Chapter 3 provides a practical manual for car settings, categorizing adjustments for straights, corners, acceleration, and deceleration to guide players in specific setting directions. Chapter 4 offers a drive system-specific guide, explaining how different drive types affect car characteristics and how to tailor settings accordingly. Chapter 5 is a course-specific setting guide, providing advice on course features, driving points, and ideal car settings for each track. Finally, Chapter 6 is a data collection section, compiling essential game information such as vehicle specifications, race rewards, prize cars, and other useful data to enhance gameplay. Each chapter section is visually represented by in-game screenshots that depict various cars and racing environments. This page is the table of contents for the Sega GT guidebook, breaking down the game into 6 chapters. Chapter 1 is all about high-speed driving techniques, discussing what it means to drive fast, covering straights, cornering, acceleration, and deceleration. Chapter 2 dives into car tuning parts, explaining how to adjust elements like the drive system, body, engine, drivetrain, suspension, brakes, tires, weight, and downforce. Chapter 3 is your practical tuning manual, offering guidance on how to increase top speed and acceleration, sharpen cornering, improve stability, achieve smooth deceleration, and find the overall car balance. Chapter 4 provides drive system-specific tuning advice, detailing settings for front-wheel, rear-wheel, and four-wheel drive cars, along with example car setups. Chapter 5 focuses on course-specific settings, giving you the best setup tips for various tracks in the game like Sprint Zone, Solid Circuit, Sky Peak Truck and Hill, Rock Roads, Snowy Mountain, Night Tracks, Industrial 400, Heat Stage 1000, and even the Sega Secret File. Finally, Chapter 6 is a data hub with quick guides for championship mode, car specifications, race data, prize money and car details, and a glossary of terms. This page kicks off Chapter 1, titled High-Speed Driving Observation, which is all about understanding high-speed driving in Sega GT. The page features the Sega GT logo prominently, specifying Homologation Special. It sets the scene by talking about tuning parts and car settings, something everyone does to make their cars faster. The text poses a question. What exactly is driving fast? Suggesting they are going to explore the fundamentals of speed in the game and encouraging you to revisit the basics. This page delves deeper into what it means to drive fast in Sega GT, following on from the question posed on the previous page. It explains that in circuit racing, going fast is all about getting the quickest lap time. To achieve this, you need to consider that racetracks aren't just one long straight road. They are made up of different sections like straights, corners, uphill and downhill sections. The game highlights that driving technique and car setup need to be tailored to each of these sections to really shave off those precious seconds and improve your overall lap time. To understand this, the page shows a simple flow diagram of circuit driving, moving from the start, accelerating into a straight, then decelerating for a corner, and accelerating out again, repeating this loop. It also includes a basic track map, visually breaking down a circuit into straight sections and corner sections, emphasizing the importance of understanding these different parts of the track for optimizing your car setup and driving. The next page focuses on the key elements for fast circuit driving in Sega GT, straights and corners. It explains that driving fast in these two sections requires different approaches. For straights, the most important thing is engine power and traction to achieve the highest possible speed. The goal here is to maximize the car's top speed. Corners, on the other hand, are not just about power. Due to centrifugal force, car balance becomes crucial. The page mentions that going fast in corners is about raising the speed limit within them through careful car setup and driving technique. The page then delves into connecting these sections smoothly, focusing on acceleration and deceleration. Acceleration is critical after the start and when exiting corners onto straights. It's about reaching top speed quickly by utilizing engine power and selecting the correct gear ratio. Car stability when exiting corners is also highlighted as key. Deceleration, specifically when approaching corners from straights, is also discussed. Ideal deceleration is described as being as short and sharp as possible, reducing speed only as much as needed for the corner. Effective deceleration allows for longer periods of high-speed driving on straights, ultimately contributing to faster lap times overall. The page emphasizes that neglecting deceleration will not improve your lap times. In Sega GT, maximizing speed on straights is crucial for improving lap times. The primary factor is raw engine power, with displacement playing a significant role. The guide outlines 3 key areas to focus on. First, powering up the engine involves directly boosting engine power, as this dictates top speed. The turbo boost setting is highlighted. Second, reducing running resistance focuses on minimizing drag from sources like air resistance and friction. The downforce setting is discussed, noting its potential impact on top speed. Finally, increasing driving force emphasizes efficient power transfer to the road through components like the clutch, transmission, and tires. Minimizing losses in this process is essential. This discussion focuses on components influencing a vehicle's top speed: the engine, transmission, and body. Engine power, achieved by optimizing exhaust efficiency and RPM, is crucial, but must be efficiently transferred to the road. The transmission section stresses reducing drive resistance through clutch and tire tuning to minimize power loss. Lowering the final gear ratio boosts top speed by allowing faster tire rotation, though it necessitates sufficient engine power and RPM. Finally, the body section addresses air resistance and weight. Aerodynamic designs and course-specific adjustments are key to minimizing air resistance at high speeds, while vehicle weight can hinder acceleration. This page moves on to the topic of cornering, explaining that when a car turns on a circuit, it experiences centrifugal force pushing it outwards. To handle this, you need cornering force, which is the car's ability to grip and turn. If the centrifugal force is stronger than your cornering force, you'll need to slow down. Basically, faster cornering is all about how well your car can handle that outward pull. The guide then details how to improve cornering ability. Firstly, by increasing cornering force, which is mainly determined by the tires and how they grip the road when you steer. To get better grip, you need good tires, and to maximize friction between the tires and the road. The page highlights parts that help with this, like tires themselves, the car body, and the suspension, listing spring rate, dampers, ride height, and stabilizers as key suspension components. Secondly, it talks about resisting centrifugal force. Centrifugal force gets stronger with speed and car weight. So one way to help cornering is to reduce the car's weight. Also, the suspension plays a role in absorbing centrifugal force, allowing the car to lean into the corner and stay stable instead of being thrown outwards. To improve cornering in racing games, focus on tires, car body, and suspension. Softer, grippier tires are essential, providing the most grip. The car body's weight and aerodynamics impact cornering. Downforce from aerodynamic parts increases grip, and while weight also increases grip, reducing weight generally aids cornering. Suspension is critical for maintaining tire contact with the road, absorbing centrifugal forces, and controlling car posture. Suspension keeps tires grounded on uneven surfaces, mitigating loss of control. Softer suspension absorbs the outward force, keeping the car stable. However, for powerful cars, overly soft suspension can lead to instability. The goal is to manage the car's lean to ensure all tires contribute to grip. Cornering involves centrifugal forces impacting a car's speed and tire grip. Understeer occurs when front tires lose grip first, causing the car to push wide. Oversteer happens when rear tires lose grip first, causing the rear to swing out. Oversteer is generally harder to control. Car balance preferences depend on the corner type. Oversteer can be advantageous in tight, slow corners for agility, whereas understeer is better for long, high-speed turns, providing greater stability. High-speed oversteer is particularly difficult to manage. This page talks about elements that change the front and rear balance of a car for better cornering in Sega GT. It highlights key areas to consider when tuning your car's setup. Firstly, weight balance is crucial, as it affects how centrifugal force and tire grip are distributed, greatly impacting cornering performance. Next, suspension adjustments, including stabilizers, significantly alter cornering direction. It's important to adjust all suspension components in a unified direction when making changes. Tires are also vital, with grip levels influencing cornering. Racing tires offer adjustable hardness, allowing for fine-tuning of grip. Downforce parts modify cornering characteristics too. Increasing the angle of these parts boosts tire grip, helpful for addressing understeer. For oversteer, increasing the angle of front downforce parts is recommended. Finally, the drive system plays a role. Front-wheel drive (FWD) cars are prone to understeer when accelerating, while rear-wheel drive (RWD) cars tend towards oversteer. These drive system characteristics should be factored into your car's setup strategy. This page discusses how to improve acceleration in Sega GT. It explains that to increase acceleration, you need to enhance the engine, transmission, and reduce vehicle weight. However, simply increasing power might reduce top speed performance, so it's about finding the right balance. The guide talks about keeping the engine in its torque band for optimal acceleration when shifting gears. This means understanding the engine's power range and shifting in a way that keeps the revs within that sweet spot. It mentions setting up gear ratios, so there's some overlap in the torque band between gears when you shift up, preventing the engine revs from dropping too low. The page also touches upon how to effectively transmit driving force to the road during acceleration, especially from a standstill. It emphasizes applying the car's power appropriately to the road surface. If you use too low a gear, the driving force can become excessive, leading to tire spin or wheel spin. This not only slows the car down, but can also cause engine over-revving. Factors like vehicle weight, suspension, and tire settings are important to manage this and get good traction. There is a gear ratio chart showing different gear settings and their corresponding speeds, and a diagram illustrating load transfer during acceleration. To improve acceleration in Sega GT, focus on these key areas: engine, transmission, tires, weight, and suspension. Engine power, specifically torque and the RPM range, is crucial. Utilize gears to stay within the power band. Transmission choices are vital, with lower gear ratios for low-speed acceleration and close ratios for faster shifting, though this might lower top speed. Grippy tires are essential to prevent wheel spin. Reducing car weight directly improves acceleration. Suspension tuning should balance stability for corner exits, stiffer suspension, and grip, especially for front-wheel drive cars, where weight shifts can reduce front tire grip. Adjusting braking force distribution can also improve grip. This page delves into the crucial aspect of deceleration in high-speed driving for Sega GT. It emphasizes that deceleration is just as important as acceleration for improving lap times. The page highlights that quickly decelerating in a short distance before a corner allows you to maintain higher speeds for longer stretches of the track. The page then breaks down different deceleration methods. The simplest way is using the throttle to gradually reduce speed, which is effective for minor speed adjustments, especially with responsive engines. Braking is discussed as a more forceful method, needing good brake performance and weight reduction to be truly effective. The text mentions that overly aggressive braking can cause tire lockup. Shifting down is also presented as a deceleration technique, allowing for effective and rapid speed reduction while keeping the engine revs high for quick acceleration out of the corner. Finally, steering is mentioned as a deceleration factor, as simply turning the wheel will naturally reduce speed, especially during cornering. The page notes that smooth steering during cornering leads to smoother deceleration and better lap times, while jerky steering or braking in corners can lead to instability. Suspension and tire performance are highlighted as critical elements for effective deceleration. This page, Chapter 2 of the Sega GT Guidebook, is titled Setting Parts Explanation. It looks like it's diving into the world of car customization within the game. The page highlights that it's important to understand the different elements of car settings, and asks if you've understood the basics so far. It then states it's going to explain the setting-capable parts that you can buy within the game. The goal is to fully grasp what kinds of parts are available and what settings you can achieve with them. So it seems we're moving from driving techniques like deceleration, covered on the previous page, to now understanding how to tune your car using parts in Sega GT to improve your performance. This page discusses engine layout options in the Carrozzeria mode, where players design their own cars. The engine's placement significantly affects a car's weight balance and driving performance. 3 layouts are available: front, midship, and rear engine. Each offers unique characteristics, influencing cornering behavior and overall handling. Front engine cars provide front grip, but can understeer. Midship engines offer balanced handling, but can oversteer suddenly. Rear engine cars offer acceleration advantages, but can be tricky to control, especially during cornering, leading to oversteer. In Carrozzeria mode, players choose their engine layout at the start of the car design. Unlike real-world cars, rear engine placement is available. The choice impacts both weight and price, with the midship and rear engine setups costing more and potentially adding weight depending on drive type, especially for 4WD rear engine cars. Drivetrain, critical to a car's character, comes in 3 types: FWD, RWD, and 4WD, impacting performance, price, and weight. In the Carrozzeria mode, the drivetrain is selected after engine type. FWD, with the engine in front, minimally impacts price and weight, but causes understeer due to front wheel weight and drive. RWD, typically with an father layout, adds price and significant weight, leading to oversteer, especially in tight corners. 4WD significantly increases price and weight, offering stable handling with a tendency towards understeer, though throttle application mid-corner can induce oversteer. In Sega GT, the car body plays a crucial role in driving performance. Body weight balance significantly impacts handling. A rear-heavy car promotes oversteer, while a boxier body increases air resistance, affecting top speed. Choosing a car involves considering its shape and weight distribution, especially in Carrozzeria mode. Overall weight and front/rear balance are critical. Heavier cars accelerate slower but have more inertia, affecting cornering. The power-to-weight ratio, horsepower/weight, indicates handling nimbleness. Front-heavy cars tend to understeer, while rear-heavy ones oversteer. Wheelbase and tread also influence handling. Short wheelbases offer agility, but can be harder to control. Wider treads improve cornering stability. However, larger wheelbases and treads often mean a heavier car. A sample spec sheet for a Doblurb model is provided, showcasing technical details. Sega GT offers various car types, each with unique selection strategies. For street cars, prioritize lightweight, long wheelbase, wide tread, and balanced weight distribution, not just appearance. Works machines, unlocked through driver tests, offer superior weight balance. Original cars in Carrozzeria mode demand careful body selection, considering engine layout and drive system due to limited tuning. Front-engine cars suit front-engine bodies. Midship cars offer balanced handling. Always choose lightweight options. Finally, Works models, acquired through Carrozzeria wins, are pre-tuned, lightweight, and equipped with aero and suspension kits, making them highly desirable. The next page delves into engines in Sega GT, explaining that engines are crucial for machine speed and tuning. It highlights two main categories: naturally aspirated and engines with superchargers or turbochargers. Engine classes are defined by displacement: E-class for under 1000 cc, B-class up to 1600 cc, A class up to 2000 cc, and SA class for 2001 cc and above. The page details naturally aspirated
engines which don't use forced induction, meaning they can't forcibly feed air into the cylinders.
While NARA engines might have lower maximum horsepower compared to forced induction engines, they are praised for their responsive throttle, broad torque band, and are beneficial in technical courses. They're also lighter due to not having supercharger or turbocharger components.
In contrast, engines equipped with superchargers, SC, or turbochargers, turbo, are mentioned there. These are forced induction methods, boosting engine power. The page includes a table showing engine upgrade costs at different steps for each class, EBA say, suggesting a tiered upgrade system in the game, but states that adjustment is not possible. Finally, the page summarizes the differences, stating NARA engines have good throttle response, consistent torque across RPM, but lower max power, while forced induction engines have higher max power, narrower torque band making them harder to handle, and are heavier.
This page discusses engine tuning in Sega GT, focusing on superchargers, turbochargers, and mufflers. Superchargers use engine power to force air, boosting power but causing some power loss. They are compatible with up to 4000 cc engines and have 3 upgrade steps adjustable in 3 stages. Turbochargers use exhaust gas for forced induction, providing significant power gains. Though with turbo lag, they are compatible with up to 3000 cc engines, with upgrade steps adjustable in up to 7 stages. Increasing boost on both types boosts power, but turbochargers also increase lag and reduce low-end torque. Mufflers exhaust gases, improving engine efficiency. Upgrading from stock is essential when increasing engine power. Different muffler types, street, sports, racing, cater to different engine levels. This page of the Sega GT guide focuses on the drivetrain, which is explained as the system that transmits the engine's power to the wheels. It details 2 main components: the clutch and the transmission. The clutch is described as a part that connects the engine and transmission and is important for smooth gear changes. It mentions that the stock clutch in the game can cause power loss, and upgrading it is recommended, especially after engine power upgrades. Clutch tuning has 3 upgrade steps, but the settings themselves are not adjustable. It's mentioned that while clutch tuning reduces drive resistance, it's a worthwhile purchase for power-ups. The guide lists prices for each clutch upgrade step for different car types, labeled E, B, A, and C. The transmission is highlighted as a crucial part for determining acceleration and top speed. It explains that standard transmissions are designed for city driving and are not ideal for upgraded engines. Racing engines, with their higher rev ranges, benefit greatly from transmission upgrades. Upgrading the transmission allows for closer gear ratios, maximizing engine power, and offering gear ratio adjustments. Similar to the clutch, transmission upgrades are presented in categories: street, sports, and racing, each with associated costs for E, B, A, and C car types. It's stated that street transmissions have no adjustments, sports transmissions allow final gear ratio adjustments, and racing transmissions offer full gear ratio adjustments.
Sega GT's transmission settings allow for detailed gear tuning. The final gear adjusts the overall engine-to-wheel ratio, affecting top speed and acceleration. Sports and racing transmissions unlock this adjustment. Gear ratio customization, available with racing transmissions, lets you fine-tune each gear's ratio for optimal engine RPM, critical for cornering in turbo cars. Shifting impacts engine RPM. The goal is to shift to stay within the power band. Wide gear ratios prioritize top speed, while cross ratios favor acceleration by minimizing RPM drop during shifts. Tuning gear ratios lets you achieve either characteristic. The available transmission types, street, sports, and racing, offer varying levels of adjustability. This page continues the tuning section and focuses on suspension. It explains that suspension tuning is crucial for cornering performance, and that even powerful cars won't be fast without proper suspension. The page details suspension kits, which are sets of parts to tune the suspension. Upgrading the suspension kit grade makes the suspension harder,
improving traction and stability. Higher-grade kits allow for finer adjustments to components like springs and dampers. There are 3 suspension kit levels: Street, Sports, and Racing. The Street kit allows for damper and camber angle adjustments. Quote, "The Sports kit adds ride height adjustment on top of the Street kit features. The Racing kit further adds spring rate adjustment to the Sports kit features." The page also covers stabilizers, which connect the left and right suspensions at the front and rear. Stabilizers counteract centrifugal force during cornering, reducing body roll and improving stability, especially when steering back from a corner or exceeding cornering speed limits. Installing stabilizers can improve stability. There are soft, medium, and hard stabilizer options, each adjustable in 5 stages. Each stabilizer type has a different price point for purchase and installation. The next page delves deeper into suspension settings, explaining the relationships between parts like spring rate, dampers, and stabilizers. It emphasizes that when tuning suspension, these components should generally be adjusted in the same direction, making them all harder or softer together. Fine-tuning individual parts is possible, but drastically opposing settings can disrupt balance and negatively affect the car's handling. The page outlines hard setting and soft setting approaches. A hard suspension setup increases grip because centrifugal force is applied more directly to the tires and reduces body roll during cornering, enhancing stability and steering response. However, it can lower cornering speed limits and make the car more sensitive to road surface conditions and less responsive to weight transfer. Conversely, a soft suspension setting allows springs to absorb force, maintaining tire grip and allowing for higher cornering speeds. However, increased body roll can upset the balance of force on the left and right tires, reducing stability and making corner exits feel less controlled, with more significant steering correction needed. The page also features a screenshot of the in-game suspension setting screen, showing damper adjustments for the front and rear of a car, identified as an FDRX 7 rupees, along with the player's in-game money. This guide focuses on suspension tuning in Sega GT, emphasizing front-to-rear balance. For hard settings, high-power cars, soften the front suspension relative to the rear to combat understeer. Soft settings, lower power cars, prioritize increasing front grip. Tables offer component adjustments, spring rate, dampers, ride height, camber, stabilizer bars, to induce understeer or oversteer. For example, softening the rear spring rate in a hard setup induces understeer. The page also covers tuning original career mode cars. The chosen body style significantly impacts suspension due to preset weight distribution. Engine placement and drive type also influence tuning. The factory screen shows body selection, with details like dimensions, weight, and balance provided for the highlighted Type 15 Elnica body. Brake tuning in Sega GT is critical for improved lap times, especially with engine upgrades. Upgrading brakes with performance parts increases stopping power, matching engine enhancements, and preventing time loss. Prioritize engine and brake tuning on courses with less heavy braking. Brake kits reliably boost braking power, essential for high-power cars. However, excessively strong brakes can cause issues in lower-powered or lighter cars. Matching brake selection to the car's weight and power is vital. Brake controllers adjust front-to-rear brake bias, altering brake feel without fundamentally changing braking performance. Brake balance adjustment is also key. Adjusting the balance impacts the car's handling. Rearward bias risks oversteer, while forward bias can shorten braking distances but destabilize the car. Adjusting to suit the car's weight balance and drive type is recommended. The page provides upgrade cost tables for different brake components. This page is all about tires in Sega GT, highlighting that tires are crucial as they are the only part of the car in contact with the road. The page explains that improving tire grip directly enhances cornering speed. It points out that even with a powerful engine, if the tires lack grip, the car becomes uncontrollable, emphasizing that tire upgrades should be a priority before suspension and aero settings. The guide details tire grades, mentioning that upgrading tires increases grip, especially when tuned for racing specifications. It mentions that tire compounds come in stages of hardness. While better grip improves handling, it also increases rolling resistance, which can lead to time loss on less powerful cars. Therefore, it's important to select tires that match the engine power and track conditions. There is a section on tire settings, illustrating 3 types of tire hardness: soft, racing, and hard, for both front and rear tires. The page also includes pricing tables for street, sports, and racing tires
for both E and SA configurations, showing that racing tires are significantly more expensive than street or sports tires. It suggests that racing tires come in 3 hardness types: soft, medium, and hard, and generally, soft tires are recommended for maximum grip, although tire selection can be strategically varied between front and rear to adjust cornering characteristics. For high-speed courses where speed drops are frequent, it's recommended to slightly reduce tire grip to minimize rolling resistance. This page delves into weight reduction in Sega GT, explaining it's a crucial tuning aspect for improving acceleration and cornering. It highlights that even without engine upgrades, a lighter car is inherently faster and more responsive. The guide outlines weight reduction as a 3-step tuning process in the game. It mentions that while weight reduction is generally beneficial, extremely light cars might become prone to brake lockup. It suggests that if you have the funds, aiming for higher grade weight reduction is ideal, but starting with lower grades and upgrading later is also viable. It's important to note that changing weight reduction might require adjustments to other car settings. The page identifies several factors that influence a car's weight, including body size, engine displacement, engine layout, and drive system. It also lists specific parts affecting weight, reiterating engine, body, drive system, and engine layout as key areas. The tuning menu screenshot showcases the 3 weight reduction steps, each with increasing costs and performance tiers from E to sale ratings. Step 3 details using CFRP body panels and acrylic windows for maximum weight saving. The guide specifically recommends weight reduction as a highly effective tuning strategy for heavier 4WD vehicles. This page is all about downforce in Sega GT, explaining it as an aerodynamic part that pushes the car onto the ground, improving tire grip and cornering. Think of it like the opposite of airplane wings. The guide mentions downforce is more effective at higher speeds, so it's crucial for tailoring your car's handling for different tracks, like making a car that behaves differently at low and high speeds. It shows you the in-game settings screen where you can adjust downforce for both the front and rear of your car. Interestingly, you can't just add downforce to any car after purchase. It's pre-installed on certain types like SAD class cars, works cars, and original cars within the game. The guide highlights that adjusting the front downforce more strongly can lead to oversteer, while focusing on the rear downforce will tend to create understeer. It's also suggested that if you want more grip overall, you strengthen the downforce, but if you want to prioritize top speed, you should weaken it. Essentially, downforce tuning in Sega GT is about finding the right balance between grip for cornering and speed for straightaways. The next page kicks off Chapter 3, which is all about the practical setting manual for Sega GT. It looks like it's continuing on from the previous page about downforce, getting into the real nitty-gritty of car setup. The text mentions that it's finally time to get into actual settings, and that elements necessary for high-speed driving were already explained in Chapter 1. This chapter will focus on how to set up your car, going into specific details. The page features a wireframe image, possibly related to a car part or chassis, visually emphasizing the technical aspect of car tuning. This guide section from Sega GT focuses on high-speed circuit tuning. It emphasizes maximizing top speed by efficiently transferring engine power to the road. Key areas for tuning are the engine, clutch, transmission, and reducing air resistance. Engine tuning requires balanced upgrades, specifically matching the engine tuning step to the muffler type. Street, sports, racing. Upgrading the transmission to racing spec is also crucial, offering closer gear ratios and an extra gear, potentially increasing top speed. Gear ratios can be adjusted to suit the track. The guide also stresses the importance of clutch replacement when increasing engine power to prevent power loss and reduce weight for better acceleration and cornering, which contributes to higher top speeds. This page continues the tuning guide, now focusing on specific car settings. It starts with gear ratio, advising you to check where your car hits top speed on the track's longest straight, and adjust the final gear to prevent over-revving the engine in that section. Next up is boost pressure, relevant for turbo and supercharger engines. For superchargers, it suggests simply maxing out the boost. For turbos, it mentions that increasing boost also increases turbo lag and reduces low-end torque, so you might need to reduce boost if you're losing too much speed in slower corners due to low RPM. The transmission section recommends test driving the course to see where you reach top speed, and then fine-tuning the final gear ratio to avoid over-revving.
It emphasizes adjusting the final gear ratio rather than individual gear ratios.
Finally, downforce is discussed.
While downforce increases grip, it also creates air resistance, reducing top speed. For high-speed circuits, if your lap times aren't improving, consider reducing downforce to boost your top speed, but always be mindful of cornering stability. There's a setting aim box that summarizes the tuning strategy. Firstly, ensure you don't over-rev at the end of the longest straight. Secondly, fine-tune for acceleration and cornering speed. And lastly, remember that gear ratios beyond the engine's power are pointless.
The next page dives deeper into acceleration tuning. It emphasizes that to improve acceleration, you first need to increase engine power and have tires that can transmit that power to the road. Lightening the car is also mentioned as crucial for better acceleration. The page explains that for strong acceleration, you want an engine that produces a lot of torque across a wide RPM range. It notes that simply increasing engine power can narrow the torque band. If you tune for high RPM, you'll need to adjust the transmission to a closer ratio gearbox, also known as a cross-ratio transmission. It also mentions that increasing drive power can make handling more sensitive, and you should not forget about power loss. The difference between torque and horsepower is clarified, explaining that torque is the driving force at a certain RPM, while horsepower is torque multiplied by RPM. It suggests that when choosing a car and tuning, focusing on peak horsepower alone can lead to a narrow torque band and difficult-to-drive engine. For maximum acceleration, especially when choosing a car, it's recommended to pay attention to maximum torque. There's a section listing factors that reduce engine power, drive resistance, wheel spin, chassis shake, and engine RPM drops during gear shifts. Finally, a table compares low RPM and high RPM engine types. Low RPM engines have high low-end torque, low rev limits, and low max power. High RPM engines are the opposite, with low low-end torque, high rev limits, and high max power. To improve acceleration, engine and transmission tuning, tires, and weight reduction are key. Engine tuning boosts horsepower, but can reduce low-speed torque. Use a gearbox with closer gear ratios to maintain RPM and torque during shifts. If acceleration feels slow, adjust gear ratios. Upgrading tires with higher grip prevents wheel spin caused by increased power from engine tuning and cross-ratio gears. Reducing car weight significantly improves acceleration. However, lighter cars may experience increased brake lock and wheel spin. In carrozzeria mode, weight balance affects acceleration. Prioritize front-wheel loading for FWD, rear-wheel loading for RWD, and even distribution for 4WD for optimal performance. Engine placement and drive type can slightly affect weight balance.
In Sega GT, optimizing car performance hinges on proper tuning, particularly transmission settings. Achieving maximum acceleration involves adjusting gear ratios, specifically the cross ratio, to complement the engine's power. Failing to do so wastes power tuning efforts. For cars with superchargers or turbochargers, maximize boost pressure for enhanced acceleration. However, turbochargers can introduce lag and low RPM torque dips. Maintaining the engine's torque band is crucial. Avoid large RPM drops by minimizing gear ratio differences. Shift gears before RPM falls below the peak torque range to sustain acceleration.
Be mindful of over-revving, where exceeding the engine's RPM limit causes power loss. Prevent this, especially during starts, by considering a lower first gear in high-power vehicles to manage wheel spin.
This page continues the discussion on optimizing car performance in Sega GT. It focuses on shift timing and acceleration techniques. It advises shifting up at the rev limiter to maximize efficiency and maintain the engine's torque band, noting that manual transmissions are better for acceleration due to finer gear ratio control compared to automatics. The guide emphasizes checking the RPM and speed increase after shifting gears to ensure you're in the optimal torque band, suggesting adjustments to gear ratios if speed gain is sluggish. For smooth acceleration, especially in high-powered cars, the page recommends managing wheel spin by carefully controlling the throttle to match the engine's peak torque at the start. If wheel spin occurs, slightly reduce throttle to regain grip. Finally, it touches on the relationship between suspension and acceleration. It explains that proper suspension settings are crucial for effective acceleration, especially for tire grip. For front-wheel drive cars, it suggests stiffening the suspension to prevent weight shift during acceleration, while for rear-wheel drive cars, softer rear suspension is recommended to load the rear wheels for better traction. The page also features gameplay screenshots and a setting parameter section related to spring rate adjustments for the front and rear suspension.
Mastering cornering is essential for fast lap times in Sega GT, with precise suspension settings being vital. The Tuning Edition section emphasizes responsiveness, highlighting the need for accurate line tracking and maintaining speed through corners. Sluggish handling significantly hurts performance. The Engine section points out the importance of balancing horsepower with handling. While more power helps, too much can cause slides. Tuning the engine to match the car's overall handling is crucial. Finally, the transmission section focuses on gear ratios. Properly tuned gearing maintains optimal engine RPMs during cornering and ensures smooth acceleration. Closer ratios can improve acceleration and also provide effective deceleration, making engine braking less necessary. The next page focuses on tuning your car for cornering in Sega GT, and it breaks down three key areas: suspension, tires, and vehicle weight. For suspension, it explains that standard road car suspension is too soft for serious circuit driving. To get responsive cornering, you'll need to tune up the suspension kit and stabilizer. The guide warns against just throwing on super stiff suspension if you're not upgrading the engine power at the same time, as too stiff suspension with a weak engine can actually reduce tire grip and hurt cornering speed. Next up are tires, and it's pretty straightforward. Tire grip is crucial for cornering speed, just like suspension. Upgrading your tires will give you more grip, but again, it's about balance. Too much grip for your engine power can make the car feel like it's slowing down too much when you turn into a corner. Lastly, vehicle weight. This is a big one for cornering. The lighter the car, the higher the cornering speed limit. Especially if you're driving a powerful car, weight reduction is really important. The guide suggests making weight reduction a priority when you start tuning to get the quickest cornering possible to improve handling. This page delves deeper into car settings for cornering in Sega GT, focusing on engine RPM and vehicle direction changes. Firstly, it talks about keeping the engine RPM in the optimal range while cornering. It suggests checking the RPM during cornering, noting that it usually drops below straight-line speeds. If the gear ratio isn't right for the cornering speed, the RPM might drop too low or surge too high when downshifting, causing a loss of power and potentially wheel spin. The advice here is to adjust the gear ratios so the engine stays within the torque band for optimal cornering power. The page then discusses quickly changing the car's direction. It mentions adjusting the suspension to allow the car to respond directly to steering input, especially during corner entry, when deceleration puts a lot of load on the front wheels. It recommends reducing rear grip slightly to make the car more agile, and adjusting the front/rear weight balance accordingly, especially for front-wheel drive and rear-engine cars where front weight balance is more critical. It includes a table with suspension settings recommendations, suggesting softer front springs and dampers, higher front ride height, larger front camber angle, and softer front stabilizer compared to the rear for enhanced turn-in. There are also screenshots from Sega GT, showing the in-game setting screens for suspension and gear ratios, illustrating the points discussed in the text. To enhance cornering in Sega GT, prioritize tire choice and setup adjustments. Utilize the best available tires, preferably racing tires with soft compounds for maximum grip, and consider slightly reducing rear tire grip for tighter corners. Adjust camber angles. Aim for 0 to 0.8 degrees front and 1 to 1.6 degrees rear for quick handling, increasing angles for higher speeds. Stiffen the suspension, opting for hard settings to absorb centrifugal force. Use harder dampers and stabilizers, especially in high-powered cars, and lower the ride height, but avoid excessively stiff rear stabilizers in rear-wheel drive cars. Finally, maximize downforce for high-speed cornering, then reduce front downforce for mild understeer. This page continues the guide to cornering stability in Sega GT and emphasizes its importance for effective time attacks, especially in high-speed corners where stability is paramount. It notes that with increased engine power, maintaining car balance during cornering becomes crucial, and even slight steering adjustments can throw off the balance. The guide suggests prioritizing secure grip and cornering stability, even if it means slightly sacrificing responsiveness in tighter corners to ensure faster lap times overall. The page highlights the importance of front-rear balance adjustment. Key tuning parts for cornering stability are listed as suspension kit, stabilizer, tires, and downforce, which are all changeable in the game. Furthermore, the guide discusses setting up your car according to its drive type. It points out that front-wheel drive cars are prone to understeer when accelerating, while rear-wheel drive cars tend to understeer when decelerating. Four-wheel drive cars exhibit a mix of both characteristics. To address these traits, the guide recommends using suspension kits and stabilizers to fine-tune the car and adjust the front-rear balance for optimal cornering performance, suggesting at least getting stabilizers to start with. The next page delves into diagnosing reasons for cornering failures in Sega GT and provides solutions. It breaks down cornering problems into 4 key areas. Firstly, spinning during high-speed corners or acceleration is attributed to oversteer and overly quick handling. The solution involves adjusting suspension components like front and rear dampers, springs and camber angles, and stiffening the front stabilizer while doing the opposite for the rear. Secondly, course out, where the car runs wide in corners, is due to understeer and insufficient grip. To fix this, you should stiffen the rear stabilizer, damper, and spring, and conversely, soften the front settings. Thirdly, if you cannot accelerate smoothly from start when exiting corners, it's likely due to an improper gear ratio or suspension instability. The advice is to soften the rear stabilizer and damper, or the stabilizer, on the driving wheels. If that doesn't work, consider stiffening overall suspension parts. Finally, if your overall speed is slow in corners, it's pinned down to insufficient grip or an incorrect gear ratio. The solution depends on grip levels. If grip is lacking, soften the entire suspension. If grip is too high, change tires. It also suggests checking the engine RPMs. This page is from the Sega GT guide and dives into car settings. It's titled Setting Edition and focuses on achieving stable cornering. The basic approach recommended is to start with a slight understeer setup for the car. The guide explains that a slight understeer is beneficial because it reduces sudden changes in car behavior, makes acceleration out of corners smoother, and handles both high and low-speed corners effectively. It then gives a step-by-step procedure for setting up your car. First, you should check your initial tuning settings. Then, run a few laps on the course without changing anything to get a baseline lap time and understand the car's cornering tendencies. After that, slightly stiffen the suspension and stabilizer. Test run again and check the cornering. The flowchart then guides you on what to do next. If the car is understeering too much, it points to setting 1, and if it's oversteering too much, it directs you to setting 2, guiding you on further adjustments. The image also shows an example of spring rate settings for front and rear. This guide details car setup adjustments for understeer and oversteer. To correct understeer, soften the overall suspension, starting with dampers and then springs. For rear-wheel drive, increase rear grip by softening the rear stabilizer or adjusting camber. Shift brake balance rearward if understeer persists during braking. To combat oversteer, stiffen the front suspension components, dampers, stabilizers, springs. Aim for front stiffness approximately 20% higher than the rear, within a 30 to 70% range of available settings. The guide provides an example spring rate balance. Finally, the guide emphasizes adapting settings to the road surface. Softer settings are recommended for bumpy tracks, e.g. cobblestones, to maintain tire grip. Avoid excessive camber on long straight courses. This page details how to improve a car's deceleration performance through brake upgrades and brake controllers. Brake grade up is essential when increasing engine power to maintain safe stopping distances, preventing premature braking that costs time. However, upgrades might be unnecessary for courses prioritizing speed over braking, like oval tracks. A brake controller allows adjustment of the front-rear brake balance. This is especially useful for high-powered cars or those prone to understeer, allowing for sharper deceleration or preventing lockup. Improper brake balance leads to either longer stopping distances, weak braking, or excessive speed reduction and lockup, strong braking. The ideal setting provides appropriate deceleration and control. An in-game example illustrates how to adjust the brake balance. In Sega GT, brake settings are crucial for optimal performance, influenced by car weight and horsepower. Heavier cars often benefit from a front-biased brake balance to maximize braking, while lighter cars may require a rear bias setting to prevent front tire lockup. The text emphasizes avoiding brake lock, which reduces grip and can lead to loss of control. Experimenting with brake balance is key to understanding its effects on braking and potential lockup. Lighter cars are more prone to front lockup, and heavier cars are more prone to rear lockup. Adjusting brake balance changes car handling. Front-biased balances increase braking power but increase the risk of oversteer and front lockup. Rear-biased balances reduce braking power but increase the risk of understeer and rear lockup.
The goal is to find a balance that maximizes braking without compromising control. This guide for Sega GT emphasizes achieving total car balance for faster lap times, not just raw power. It highlights two critical areas for car setup. The first focuses on acceleration and top speed. The best choice depends on the track layout. Aim to reach peak torque in top gear on the longest straight, adjusting gear ratios to keep engine RPM within the optimal range, especially during cornering. The second area addresses corner entry and exit. If understeer or oversteer hinders performance, prioritize acceleration out of corners. Start by optimizing settings for the tightest corners, then fine-tune for stability on corner exits and high-speed sections. The goal is to create a balanced setup that maximizes acceleration without sacrificing control. This page is Chapter 4 of the guide, and it's all about setting guide by drive system for Sega GT. The page emphasizes understanding how different drive systems impact car performance and how to tune your car accordingly. It highlights that different drive types have distinct handling characteristics, which affect how you should set up your car to get the best performance on the track. The chapter promises to give advice on setting direction and understanding the characteristics of each drive system to help you achieve optimal performance. Sega GT's Guide to Front-Wheel Drive, FWD, focuses on its unique handling characteristics. FWD cars, with their engine and drivetrain in the front, inherently understeer due to weight distribution. To maximize acceleration, minimize wheel spin by managing weight transfer. During deceleration, weight shifts forward, aiding responsiveness. Conversely, acceleration can cause wheel spin, especially in corners. Centrifugal force also contributes to understeer, particularly with increased power. Key to FWD driving is weight manipulation. Releasing the accelerator in corners, tuck-in, helps the car turn. Key characteristics are: acceleration results in wheel spin. Tight corners demand deceleration to avoid understeer. High-speed corners benefit from inherent stability, allowing acceleration. Deceleration requires strong front brake balance due to front weight bias. This page continues, the FWD Car Tuning Guide for Sega GT, diving into engine specifics and parts upgrades. It explains that for FWD cars, smaller, lighter engines with fewer cylinders are better suited. High-revving engines with narrow torque bands are not ideal for FWD, as you need to manage throttle in corners. When tuning, avoid just boosting RPMs and thinning out the torque. The guide then presents a parts purchase guide, recommending you start with suspension kits and stabilizers, then tires, weight reduction, brakes, transmission, and finally, engine. This order helps improve handling and cornering first, before adding more power. Lastly, it touches on body selection for carrozzeria mode, recommending front-heavy body types for FWD cars. It suggests looking at body styles similar to those found in typical FWD cars, and mentions Prompt, Lyell, and Trust 541 as examples of bodies that suit FWD setups, while warning against body types not designed for FWD, as they can cause setup issues with front stiffness. This page continues the discussion on FWD car settings in Sega GT, specifically focusing on tuning for tight corners and suspension adjustments. It starts by highlighting that FWD cars naturally tend to understeer, which is especially noticeable in tight corners when accelerating out of them. To address this, the guide suggests upgrading your tires and suspension to at least a sports type to improve grip and handling. Moving on to suspension, it emphasizes considering the weight distribution of FWD cars, which is typically front-heavy. For spring rates, the recommendation is to make the front springs harder than the rear to balance the car's roll. Dampers should then be adjusted to match the chosen spring rate. Stabilizers are for fine-tuning roll, with a suggestion of a 1 to 2 level difference between front and rear. Camber angle adjustments are deemed mostly unnecessary. Finally, ride height for FWD cars should generally be low. A high ride height can cause excessive weight shift to the rear during acceleration, leading to torque steer and wheel spin. Lowering the rear ride height can help induce slides for better cornering. For rougher roads, slightly raising the front can improve grip. The guideline for ride height is suggested to be in the 2,530% range for the front and 20-30% range for the rear, using the slider settings in the game. This guide focuses on tuning FWD cars in Sega GT, covering engine, brakes, tires, weight reduction, and downforce. For engines,
avoid heavy ones, and boost pressure for supercharged cars. Wider gear ratios are recommended. Brake balance is crucial, favoring stronger front brakes, with the default setup at 65/35. Tire choice should consider engine power. Street tires are sufficient up to 200 horsepower. The default tire setup is soft front, medium rear. Weight reduction depends on engine power and original weight. E-Class FWDs might suffer from wheel spin if too light. B-Class cars likely need only step 1 or 2. If the engine is tuned, be cautious with weight reduction. Downforce adjustments are minimal on FWD road cars. Slightly increasing front downforce can reduce understeer, but avoid instability. Rear downforce is generally light. Sega GT's RWD cars offer advantages in acceleration and cornering. Their rear-wheel drive and weight transfer during acceleration provide strong traction, letting drivers use throttle to induce oversteer for faster cornering. This makes RWD cars perform well in acceleration and tight corners compared to FWD cars. However, excessive power can lead to instability. RWD cars initially understeer when turning, but applying throttle can trigger oversteer. This oversteer must be managed, especially at high speeds. The engine placement, front, mid, or rear, impacts weight balance and handling. The summary table highlights RWD strengths: strong acceleration, throttle-controlled oversteer in tight corners, and manageable oversteer in high-speed turns. Deceleration in corners can induce understeer, making entry speed crucial. This page details tuning points for RWD cars in Sega GT. It starts by discussing engine tuning, suggesting that for father or RR cars with smaller engines, power-upping with superchargers is effective. For maximum power gains, tuning the transmission to utilize a narrow torque band is crucial. The page then moves on to general part purchasing for RWD vehicles. It recommends prioritizing tire performance upgrades first to handle the power and cornering. Following tires, weight reduction, and suspension tuning for better control are suggested. For RWD cars, especially sports cars, the standard suspension is already quite good, so suspension tuning is recommended to be done alongside transmission and engine upgrades. And don't forget to tune up the brakes as well. Finally, the page discusses body selection in carrozzeria mode for RWD cars. It recommends choosing a body where the weight balance is centrally located or slightly front biased. For RR cars, a rear biased body, and for Mr. cars, an evenly balanced body are suitable. Essentially, selecting a body that matches the engine position for better weight balance is key. However, be aware that even if a body looks suitable, the suspension settings might not always match, so caution is advised. The page also shows in-game screenshots illustrating chassis layout options like front, mid, and rear engine positions, along with factory and carrozzeria screens showing car details and costs. This page continues the RWD car tuning guide for Sega GT, now focusing on suspension settings to ensure stability in high-speed corners. It highlights that RWD cars tend to oversteer in corners right out of the box, so the goal is to tune them for slight understeer for better control. The page discusses suspension components, spring rate, dampers, and stabilizers. For cornering, it recommends initially maximizing grip, both front and rear, and then softening the springs and dampers to a level suitable for the engine power. After that, you should gradually reduce front grip while testing how the car performs in high-speed corners to find the sweet spot. Ride height is also covered, suggesting to start with a slightly higher ride height and then lower the front until understeer becomes apparent. It emphasizes that ride height adjustments should be done alongside other suspension tuning changes for the best effect. Simply changing ride height alone won't give you a significant benefit. The page also provides setting guidelines, suggesting increasing the front spring rate by 20 to 30% relative to the rear, setting the dampers to match the spring rate levels, and using the stabilizer to fine-tune the car's roll in corners, adjusting it within a range of 1 to 2 levels. For ride height, it suggests a range of 20 to 30% for the front and 20 to 35% for the rear as a starting point. This car tuning guide expands on suspension adjustments, covering engine, transmission, brakes, tires, weight, and downforce. For RWD cars, engine tuning involves managing rear-wheel traction. Reducing boost can stabilize twitchy cars. Use a close-ratio transmission for high-powered engines. Brake controllers are recommended for power upgrades, with a slightly rear-biased brake balance, e.g. 55 to 45, for stability. Racing tires are generally advised. using medium front and soft rear tires to combat oversteer in RWD cars. Reducing weight improves handling in RWD cars, but excessive weight reduction in light Mr./RR cars can make steering overly sensitive. Finally, adjust suspension for aero tuning, utilizing downforce for high-speed understeer. This page discusses setting up 4WD cars. It explains that 4WD vehicles distribute engine torque to all four wheels, resulting in excellent grip in various conditions, though they tend to be heavier. 4WD is presented as combining the advantages of both FWD and RWD, making them suitable for high-power machines. The page points out that while 4WD offers superior grip, the added weight and drivetrain complexity can lead to handling characteristics like understeer during acceleration and oversteer during deceleration. It stresses the importance of tuning 4WD cars to fully utilize their potential, particularly for maximizing acceleration when exiting corners. A table summarizes the specific characteristics of 4WD vehicles in different driving scenarios, including acceleration, tight corners, high-speed corners, and deceleration. The page also displays a setting screen showing spring rate adjustments for the front and rear suspension of the car. This page continues the discussion on 4WD tuning, now focusing on specific points for Sega GT. It highlights engine tuning for 4WD cars made in carrozzeria mode, recommending keeping the engine displacement under 3000 cc and using turbochargers to gain horsepower. The idea is to use a compact engine to keep the car nimble and improve cornering. The page then gives a parts purchase guide, suggesting an upgrade order for tuning your 4WD. It recommends starting with the transmission, followed by weight reduction, brakes, tires, then the engine, and finally the suspension. Finally, it touches on body selection for 4WD cars in carrozzeria mode. It suggests choosing a body type with balanced front and rear weight distribution, or slightly front-heavy for front-engine cars. For midship and rear-engine 4WD cars, adjusting the initial suspension settings is noted as important. The page also shows examples of engine performance data and car body selection screens within the game. This guide focuses on optimizing 4WD car settings in Sega GT, primarily addressing understeer. To handle corners like an RWD car, use the accelerator to induce slight oversteer. Aim for stability at high speeds with a touch of understeer. In tight corners, use weight transfer by braking, then power out with the accelerator for optimal cornering. Suspension tuning is similar to FWD cars, reducing understeer. Consider weight balance when adjusting front and rear suspension. Increase rear spring rate by 20% compared to the front. Set dampers according to spring rate and stabilizers, adjusted by 1 to 2 levels front to rear. For ride height, the front should be slightly higher than the rear, with a maximum difference of 5 mm. If increasing tire camber angle, apply a greater angle to the front and slightly lower the front ride height. Ride height guidelines suggest a range of 30 to 40% of the maximum setting for both front and rear. This 4WD car setup guide covers engine/transmission, brakes, tires, weight reduction, and downforce. Engine tuning emphasizes maximizing boost and using a close ratio transmission. For brakes, strong braking is crucial, but front wheel lockup causing understeer should be avoided. A 60/40 front-rear balance is suggested. Tire grip is important, but matching front and rear grip levels is generally fine. If desired, harder rear tires can be used for corner entry oversteer. Weight reduction is vital for improving steering response in the inherently heavy 4WD cars. High-grade tuning is recommended. Finally, aerodynamic parts can reduce understeer and increase straight-line speed. Start with slightly reduced downforce and increase it as needed for stability, aiming for a level 3 or 4 out of 10. This page introduces a sample machine setup. The Trust 541. This is an original SAC-class car suitable for Night Section B specifications. The car's details are listed as having a 3,498 cc displacement V6 engine with natural aspiration and front-wheel drive. It weighs 1188 kg with a front-rear balance of 755 kg, 433 kg. The page then provides detailed setting information for both front and rear, covering parameters like spring rates, ride height, damper levels, camber angles, stabilizer levels, brake balance, tire type, and downforce levels. There's also data on gear ratios from first to sixth and the final drive. The parts information section shows a list of installed parts and their grades. These include upgrades, like Step 3 turbo and clutch, racing muffler, transmission, suspension kit, and brake kit. The stabilizer is hard. The balance controller is equip. The tires are racing, the wheels are normal, and reducing weight is at Step 3. Finally, the page describes this Trust 541 as an extreme front-wheel drive machine, boasting over 800 horsepower. It mentions this is an almost unbelievable machine but was created as a test, emphasizing the effectiveness of the suspension settings. 2 custom car setups are described. The Fate, an A-Class father car, features a 1,998cc turbo engine, weighing 814 kilograms. It's tuned for oversteer and tight corners, with an emphasis on mastering A-Class father cars. Settings are provided for various parameters, utilizing Step 3 upgrades and racing parts. The Platypus, an C-Class 4 WD car, boasts a 2,998cc turbo engine and weighs 1,222 kg. Aiming for neutral handling, it uses a 4WD setup with near 5-to-5 weight balance. It also has Step 3 upgrades but uses soft tires and hard stabilizer. This document details 2 SA-class car setups. The Frisia X5 is a 4WD car designed for Sky Peak Hill Reverse, featuring a 2,998cc flat-6 turbo engine weighing 1,269 kg. It employs Step 3 turbo and clutch, a racing muffler, and other performance parts, with detailed suspension settings and Level 7 turbo boost. This setup prioritizes smooth cornering and acceleration, tuned for a rear-engine feel. The RX-7 Typers is a rear-wheel drive father car optimized for night section A. It's powered by a 654 CCX2 rotary turbo engine and weighs 1,088 kg. Like the Frisia, it uses similar parts and Level 7 turbo boost, with specific suspension settings. This setup, based on a production car, is designed for high power and lightweight performance, with a focus on slight understeer. This page, Chapter 5, is a course-specific setting guide for Sega GT Homologation Special. It highlights that the game includes 12 courses in total, including the 0400 and 01000 meter courses. It mentions that reverse courses are also available. This chapter will focus on the standard course settings and pick out key points for reverse courses. The guide aims to provide setting points and will be a helpful reference for driving. This page introduces the Sprint Zone course in Sega GT, describing it as a super high-speed track with long straights and steep banking in the corners. It explains that the course is made up of 2 star corners connected by 2 straights, making it similar to an oval course. The guide highlights that the banked corners are a key feature, allowing for high speeds but requiring different car settings compared to other tracks. The text advises players to effectively use the banking to maximize their speed, while also warning that even small errors in steering at high speeds can be challenging to recover from. The page includes a track map of the Sprint Zone course, showcasing its layout with straights and banked turns, and 2 in-game screenshots that visually demonstrate the banked corners within a tunnel section, with speedometers showing speeds around 300 km per hour. This page is titled Race Event Data, and it details several race events available in the game. Under normal race types, there are NTT Communications Novice Car Cup, Pioneer Max Speed, and Single Race Hard. For reverse race types, there are Jomo Original Car Cup and NA Large Car Cup. The page highlights 2 featured events. The first is Pioneer Max Speed, which is described as a challenge to reach extreme speeds. Unlike races on shorter heat stages, this event takes place on an oval course, requiring careful car setup, not just engine and transmission, but also tires and suspension. The target speed is over 360 km per hour, emphasizing overall driving technique and car setup skills. The second featured event is Natus a Large Car Cup. This is a cup race with no restrictions on engine displacement, but superchargers are prohibited. Straight line speed is key for this course.
making naturally aspirated large displacement cars advantageous. For commercially available cars, engine tuning to the maximum extent may be necessary. The description mentions that even with smaller cars, skillful driving with smooth lines and minimal wasted movement can overcome power disadvantages on this oval course. The page includes screenshots of gameplay and car selection screens related to these events. This page is titled Setting Guide and focuses on course points. It outlines the points for both normal and reverse courses. For the normal course, point 1 is emphasized, mentioning that settings for normal and reverse are almost the same. The key setting point is at the end of the straight, where the car reaches its maximum speed. Particularly for the Pioneer Max Speed event, it highlights the necessity for perfect tuning, as there is only one lap and no second chances. For the reverse course, point 2 is the focus, and again the point is the straight end where maximum speed is reached. It notes that the starting point is somewhat in the middle of the main straights. The settings are generally similar to the normal course. However, for races, overtaking situations need to be considered, and stability becomes crucial when taking the best racing line. The page includes course layout diagrams and in-game screenshots showing speedometer readings of 301 km per hour and 308 km per hour, alongside lap time information. These screenshots visually illustrate the high-speed aspect discussed in the text. There is a note indicating that, in reverse, the course conditions are the same, and the same settings can be effective. This page continues the setting guide, focusing on specific setting points for both normal and reverse courses. For the normal course setting, the key aim is to prevent oversteer. To achieve this, adjustments to tires, suspension, and downforce are recommended to maximize grip. It also suggests setting the gear ratios with a large step-up and adjusting the final gear ratio. For the reverse course, special attention is needed for rear-wheel drive cars, as they tend to oversteer easily at the limit of cornering speed, particularly high-displacement engine cars. It recommends prioritizing top speed over downforce for aero parts and adjusting their angle shallowly. For RWD cars, it's advised to adjust suspension settings to match the speed range and set aero parts shallow for top speed, balancing the rear to be stronger than the front. The page also details spring rate settings, showing front and rear values, and mentioning that stiffer spring rates are generally preferable, emphasizing adjusting the front and rear balance. Screenshots illustrate the gear ratio settings screen, in-game driving at speed, and the spring rate setting interface. This page introduces the Solid Circuit, a course designed to test driving versatility. It's described as a track that blends extremely high-speed sections, including the finish line straight, with technical areas demanding sharp braking. The guide emphasizes that while top speed is important, having a car that can handle tight corners is crucial. Quick acceleration out of these tight corners is highlighted as a key factor in achieving fast lap times. The course map is shown with a reverse label, potentially linking to the previous page's discussion on reverse course car setups, where prioritizing top speed was advised. The text also points out that drivers need to be cautious as the track width suddenly narrows in places. Screenshots show in-game action with cars racing on the solid circuit, displaying typical racing game information like position, lap number, total, and lap times, as well as speed. The guide suggests that a key point for this circuit is deciding whether to prioritize car setup for tight corners or high-speed sections, implying a need to balance car performance for both types of track sections, which echoes the previous page's setting advice for normal and reverse courses. This guide details race events in a game, categorizing them by normal and reverse usage. Normal events include official races and driver's license tests across various classes and car manufacturers. Reverse events feature modified races and advanced license tests. Two events are highlighted. The SEA Class Cup is a crucial race in a series, emphasizing cornering stability on the solid circuit, particularly in the challenging final sector. The Tarami Original Car Cup is designed for original B-Class cars, offering a learning opportunity for advanced setting techniques, especially mastering turbo car acceleration. The guide also displays an event race menu, with details on course, licenses, and car restrictions for races like the Rinray Novice Car Cup. This page is a setting guide and focuses on course points for normal and reverse races. For the normal course, point 1 is at the third corner, where you can go full throttle, but it's important to decelerate properly before this corner and set up your car to handle it smoothly. Be aware that the track narrows at the entrance to this corner.
For the reverse course, point 2 is at the first corner after the start. Since you're still building speed after the start, this isn't as crucial on the first lap. However, from the second lap onwards, smooth deceleration is key, just like in the normal course, especially from high speed, to avoid brake lock and crashing into the wall because you might not be able to corner effectively otherwise. The course points section explains that how fast you can get through a corner impacts your overall section time. It also mentions adjusting your brake balance can let you brake later into corners. This page continues the setting guide and talks about setting points for both normal and reverse courses. For the normal setting, it emphasizes braking, suggesting you should upgrade your brakes, especially if you're using faster cars like E-Class or above. The goal here is smooth acceleration out of corners, so they recommend a slightly understeering steering setup. There's a gear ratio example shown, with numerical values and a graph, which seems to be balanced for both acceleration and top speed. Moving on to the reverse course, the basic settings are similar to the normal course. However, they point out that for the first corner in reverse, if your steering is too understeery, you might not be able to turn properly. They also mention that corners 2 and 3 in reverse have tight curves, so maintaining a stable car posture when exiting these corners is important. For the reverse setting, there's an example spring rate setting, which appears to be quite stiff, indicating a harder suspension setup is recommended. Screenshots from the game are also included to illustrate the track views and in-game settings. This page introduces the Sky Peak track in Sega GT, emphasizing that mastering the 3 corners is key to victory. It describes the track as an oval course similar to sprint zones, but with 3 distinct corners requiring different car setups. The guide advises players to treat the 2 shorter corners as one large corner and tune their machine for smooth cornering. The page also highlights that this course is flat with no banking. We can see a track map of Sky Peak track and a screenshot from the game showing the car driving at 208 km per hour with a lap time of 04.0223 and a fastest lap of 032.034. The car settings on display show spring rate settings for both front and rear, with the front at 8.5 kilograms per millimeter and rear at 5.5 kilograms per millimeter. This continues the theme of car settings discussed on the previous page. This page details the race event data in Sega GT, outlining several race events. It highlights 2 events in particular. The first is the Tarami Original Car Cup, a series race for original cars under 1,900 cc, held at the Sky Peak track. It suggests that turbocharged, high-powered machines are advantageous, and tuning should focus on engine and transmission matching for stable cornering to win the series championship. A race result table is shown for this event. The second highlighted event is the Nachi Small Car Cup, which is for naturally aspirated cars under 1,000 cc. This event is described as challenging for these cars on high-speed courses, suggesting that lighter cars are beneficial, since superchargers are not allowed. Tuning advice focuses on cornering lines and adjusting the final gear ratio to maintain engine revolutions, as machine power is limited compared to cornering limits. We can also see 2 in-game screenshots showing race scenes and speedometers, demonstrating the game in action. This page is a setting guide, focusing on course points in a racing game. It uses a track diagram to explain point-scoring corners in both normal and reverse directions. For the normal course, point 1 is highlighted as the final corner, where points are usually scored. It mentions that unlike sprint zones, the course has smaller banks, which can make it easy to lose machine balance at high speeds. It advises approaching from the exit of the previous corner and setting up the car to avoid drifting and maintain speed through this section. For the reverse course, point 2 is the point corner. While corners still score points in reverse, it notes that because it comes at the end of a straight rather than in a series of corners, you need to decelerate more than you might expect. This corner, although looking like a large curve, is actually tighter than it appears, so caution is advised when setting up. The page also features 2 in-game screenshots under Course Point. The first one highlights that entering a corner in an unstable condition can lead to losing car stability easily. The second screenshot points out that due to the tight curve of the corner, it is important to actively decelerate and select a good line to avoid trouble. This guide provides car setup advice specifically for the Sky Peak track, detailing strategies for both normal and reverse track directions. For normal, the focus is maintaining balance and preventing oversteer in the final corner, prioritizing a stable setup there over acceleration. For reverse, the advice centers around preventing oversteer into the first corner, emphasizing front grip during entry. Setting goals include achieving slight understeer in the final corner for normal. Reverse setups should use firmer front suspension, shallower camber, and a lower ride height. Both track directions require speed-focused transmission tuning, maximizing top speed on the straights, and utilizing a fully tuned engine. The guide includes a graph and table detailing gear ratios and corresponding speeds, with the final gear setting adjusted to match the end of the longest straight. Screenshots illustrate in-game dashboard views. This page is about the Sky Peak Hill course, focusing on how to tackle its varying road surfaces and elevation changes. It points out that the course features stone-paved sections, tunnels, and challenging uphill and downhill sections, which can make visibility tricky. The guide advises players to find the best racing line and fine-tune their car settings accordingly, especially because the course has a series of left and right corners, so stable cornering is key. The screenshots show in-game views, with one highlighting the difficulty of controlling the car on the stone paving, and the other emphasizing the need for a smooth, efficient racing line through the corners. This page details the race event data for the game, categorizing events into normal and reverse modes. Under normal, there's a list of races including Entry Class Cup, B Class Cup, A Class Cup, NTT Communications Novice Car Cup, Lawson Original Car Cup, Meganine Super Open Race, B Class Works Cup, and various driver license tests and single race options. These are categorized as Official Race, Event, License Works Cup, License Driver Test, and Single Race. In reverse mode, the events listed are Sa Class Special Race, Rinray Novice Car Cup, Na Large Car Cup, Four-Wheel Drive Car Cup, and Driver License Tests. These are categorized as Official Race, Event, W.SK, and License Driver Test. The page highlights two events. Number 1 is the B-Class Works Cup, described as a workshop cup, where you compete using a works car provided by the manufacturer after achieving the top time in a driver test. Car tuning is not allowed, but extensive settings adjustments are possible. Mastering driving technique and finding ideal settings are key to success. Number 2 is the Four-Wheel Drive Car Cup, where only 4 WD cars are permitted. This event is open to those who have excelled in official and event races. Rivals are described as formidable, and the course is said to be stone-paved and rally-like. Suspension settings are crucial for winning, emphasizing smooth cornering as the path to victory. Screenshots accompany both event descriptions, showing in-game racing action. This page is a setting guide focusing on course points for a racing game, likely Sega GT, based on the previous page. It details 2 key points on the track, one for the normal direction and another for the reverse direction. In normal mode, point 1 highlights the most challenging section of the course, the final corner before the tunnel, described as an edge-shaped corner and hairpin. It's stressed that the final corner, being at the tunnel exit, requires reverse steering to correct the car's direction. Mistakes here are strongly discouraged due to the impact on the following straight section speed. For reverse mode, point 2 becomes the crucial point, which is the corner immediately after exiting the tunnel. While already difficult in the normal direction, in reverse, the exit is uphill and visibility is reduced. The corner is described as almost a right angle. It advises setting up the car for strong braking to avoid going off course, because failure to brake properly could lead to missing the corner entirely. The page includes 2 screenshots. The first shows a blue car navigating point 1 in normal mode, displaying in-game speed and gear information. The second image illustrates point 2 in reverse mode, with an orange car approaching the corner, again showing speed and gear details, and highlighting the importance of braking balance to prevent crashing into the sidewall. For the Sky Peak Hill course, suspension is key due to varying road surfaces. In the standard direction, prioritize softer springs and stabilizers to manage bumps and maintain control. Avoid excessively low ride height. Optimize transmission for acceleration due to uphill sections and tight corners. Suggested spring rates: 4.5 kilograms per millimeter front, 5.0 kilograms per millimeter rear. Address understeer by improving turn-in responsiveness. For the reverse direction, braking performance is critical. Enhance front tire grip, and consider a slightly rear-biased brake balance to prevent lockup. Adjust suspension and aero to counter potential oversteer. Transmission should also favor acceleration. Suggested spring rates: 9.0 kg per millimeter front, 8.5 kg per millimeter rear. Minimize weight on front wheels. Consciously reduce rear grip to aid turning and mitigate understeer. The next page introduces the Great Rock Road Course, described as a treacherous mountain track with poor visibility. This course is characterized by continuous medium-speed corners under a setting sun, making it difficult to see ahead. The course boasts significant elevation changes, further reducing visibility and making distances hard to gauge. To achieve good time attacks on this course, memorizing the layout is crucial. The text emphasizes the need for stability in high-speed corners and speed in hairpin turns, requiring a balance of performance. The screenshot shows a car speeding through an orange-hued landscape typical of the course. It also points out that the course has large escape zones, which can result in significant time loss if utilized. This Sega GT page outlines race event data, categorizing events as normal and reverse courses. Normal events include cup races, B-Class, JOMO, Entry Class, Wanda, driver license tests, Entry, B, A Class, and single races. Reverse events consist of the Narrated Car Cup and a driver license A Class test. Two events receive further detail. The Entry Class Works Cup is unlocked by achieving top times in the E-Class driver test, using the same course. Despite the works name, cars are limited to 1000 cc, requiring skillful setup. The Narrated Car Cup, a 3-race championship on the reversed Great Rock Road Course, emphasizes suspension setup due to naturally aspirated engines, and requires course memorization. The total course length is 2,487.51 meters, with 27.59 meters elevation change. This page focuses on course points in Sega GT, detailing strategies for both normal and reverse course layouts. For the normal course, Point 1 highlights the hairpin and final corner as key sections. The guide emphasizes that the final corner is where top speeds are reached, so car setup is critical to avoid significant time loss. It also points out that the hairpin is uphill while the final corner is downhill. Switching to reverse courses, Point 2 is identified. This layout is described as having a higher average speed, needing less deceleration, and focusing on acceleration, especially for high-powered cars. The text suggests that outside of the hairpin and the corner before the final corner, you can mostly clear sections with just accelerator work. The recommendation is to prioritize a top-speed-focused car setup. Finally, the course points section elaborates on using downhill sections to gain speed. It stresses the importance of stability in high-speed corners and suggests using torque vectoring in key sections to maintain a good line. This page continues the Sega GT guide, diving into car settings for the Great Rock Road Course, covering both normal and reverse layouts. For the normal course, the aim is to maximize speed through the final corner. The guide suggests a suspension setup that's slightly understeer or neutral, ensuring you can carry speed from before the final corner all the way to the first corner entrance. For qualifying, a slightly more acceleration-focused setup is recommended. For reverse courses, which tend to be faster on average, the focus shifts to quickness in tight corners rather than high-speed corners. Since the car can get thrown around a lot in continuous corners, a slightly stiffer stabilizer setting is advised to prevent excessive understeer when entering corners. The page then outlines setting objectives. Firstly, for suspension, aim for a slightly understeer feel, especially for uphill hairpins and corners where braking is necessary. Secondly, for transmission, a high-speed setting is key to maximize acceleration from the final corner onwards, being mindful of gear ratios and hairpins. The page shows example settings. Stabilizer is set to level 4 for both front and rear. Spring rate examples are given as 7.5 kg per millimeter for the front and 5.5 kg per millimeter for the rear. Finally, gear ratios are presented with a final ratio of 4.100. Listing individual gear ratios and corresponding speeds up to 6th gear, which reaches 380 km per hour. The guide notes that for continuous corner sections, fixed gear ratios are crucial for clean cornering. This page introduces the Deep Rock Road Course, also known as A, in Sega GT. It's described as a high-speed circuit with gentle corners and minimal elevation changes. The guide highlights that accurate line tracing is essential, and if you get your car settings right, it becomes easier to run through the sprint zones. It is an ideal course for testing high-speed setups. A screenshot from the game is shown, capturing the intense racing action with a red car speeding at 286 km per hour. The text also points out that the course takes on an orange hue at sunset, and the tunnel sections can become quite dark and challenging to see. This course seems perfect for those looking to push their high-speed driving and car setup skills to the limit. This page details the race event data in Sega GT, outlining different race types available in the game. Under the normal category, you have events like a Class Cup, SA Class Cup, McDonald's Open Race, Driver License Entry Class, Driver Test, Mudgeon, and Single Race. Easy. The reverse category features Calbee Time Attack and Lawson Original Car Cup. Focusing on the McDonald's Open Race, is described as an entry-level event for any class of car. Rivals are mostly light cars, making it easier to win, and the prize car is a used dealer car worth almost 1 million yen. This event is good for quickly raising funds and practicing high-speed cornering techniques. The Calbee Time Attack event, played in reverse course direction, is a time trial where you compete for the fastest lap time. Achieving a lap time of 43 seconds from a standing start is considered quite challenging, especially since it's in reverse, making cornering tougher and requiring precise suspension settings. Mastering this event is seen as a true test of high-speed circuit driving skill. A results table shows the fastest lap records in an event race, with the fastest time being 41 seconds and 625 milliseconds by Tacomax. The player's result shows a clear race result, with a lap time matching the fastest lap, 41 seconds and 625 milliseconds. The screenshot also displays in-game data like lap times and car information, including a car speedometer showing 264 km per hour in 6th gear, and a total money amount of 45,373,000. This page is all about setting up your car for key course points, whether you're racing in the normal or reverse direction. It pinpoints point 1 in the normal course as the crucial final corner of the first lap, and the initial corner of the second lap. These are high-speed sections where you really want to maintain momentum, so any unnecessary braking or drifting will cost you valuable time. When you switch to the reverse course, point 2 becomes critical, focusing on the first and last corners. The guide points out that the curve in the middle of the reverse course is particularly demanding, requiring a stable car setup and smooth transitions. A key tip mentioned is that you should be able to navigate each corner with just light accelerator inputs, suggesting that if you're needing to work harder, your setup needs tweaking. For the curve especially, the car should handle quick directional changes without feeling unstable, particularly at high speed. This page continues the car setting discussion, specifically for the Deep Rock Road course, covering both the normal and reverse layouts. For the normal course, the guide recommends a slightly understeer focused setup, especially for high-speed sections, where you want smooth cornering and minimal braking. They emphasize using full throttle and gearing the transmission for top speed, implying brakes are used sparingly. The suggested spring rate setting is shown with the front being stiffer than the rear. Switching to the reverse course, the advice is to keep a slightly understeer setup, but stiffen the suspension, stabilizer, and dampers compared to normal running. This is to handle the curves in the reverse layout and prevent the car from swaying. They suggest focusing on racing line and avoiding an oversteer setup. For downforce in the reverse course, they advise strengthening the rear downforce to prevent tail slides, showing a setting of level 4 for both front and rear downforce. The page also has some in-game screenshots showing the speed and race UI. And a side panel mentions Sega GT Homologation Special, focusing on achieving stable cornering and top speed. Finally, it's noted that adjusting downforce is important to avoid instability if it's insufficient. This page introduces the Snowy Mountain course, highlighting it as a mountain course with significant elevation changes, the largest among all courses at 33 meters. It emphasizes that due to these intense ups and downs and corners, car stability can be greatly affected. The guide advises players to determine key areas of the track to focus on for car setup and to start setting up early for better lap times. It warns that the track has narrow sections, and mistakes in car setup can lead to considerable time loss. The page also mentions the need to be careful with car handling due to the challenging terrain. There are screenshots showing in-game racing on the Snowy Mountain course and a course map illustrating the track layout with a reverse section. This page details race events in Sega GT, categorized by normal and reverse track layouts. The normal section features cups like B Class and C Class, along with driver license tests and a single race option. The reverse section offers events like Rinrei Novice Car Cup and a Gino Moto Time Attack, plus additional driver license tests. 2 events are highlighted. The SAC Class Cup is a 6-race championship, with the 4th race on Snowy Mountain, demanding tuned SAC Class cars with considerable horsepower and precise chassis tuning. The Ajinomoto Time Attack, a 1-lap best lap challenge on the reverse course, emphasizes the impact of this layout on suspension settings. Achieving a fast lap is difficult, requiring a balance of engine power, aerodynamics, and suspension setup. This page is a setting guide for Sega GT, focusing on key course points. It highlights 2 specific sections of the track, point 1 for the normal course and point 2 for the reverse course. For the normal course, point 1 is described as the first corner right after the start. It's a fast, downhill corner that tightens as you go deeper in, and the guide warns that accelerating through it can easily push you off course. Getting through this corner smoothly is emphasized as crucial for stable cornering throughout the rest of the track. For the reverse course, point 2 is the highlighted section, described as a technical part in the middle of the course. It features a long uphill section, blind corners, and a tricky curve leading to a bridge. This combination can make the car unstable and disrupt momentum. The guide suggests that for this section, aiming to clear the curve with a slightly firmer car setup is key to achieving stable cornering. Both point 1 and point 2 are illustrated with diagrams of the track sections and in-game screenshots to show the challenges visually. This page continues the setting point guide for the Snowy Mountain course in Sega GT. It dives into specific car settings for both the normal and reverse layouts of the track. For the standard normal course, the focus is on cornering stability. The guide suggests a slightly soft suspension setup to induce a bit of understeer, but advises firming up the stabilizer. With a gearbox, it's set for high speeds, but they recommend fine-tuning to prevent over-revving in technical sections. When it comes to the reverse course, the goal shifts to preventing extreme understeers, especially through tunnels. The advice is to adjust the suspension so the car doesn't tailslide in mid-speed corners. Gear ratios should also be tweaked, as speeds tend to be a bit lower in reverse, so prioritizing acceleration becomes more important. The guide generally suggests aiming for settings that improve acceleration in the reverse layout. This page introduces the Night Ground course in Sega GT, describing it as a high-speed short circuit with minimal straights. The course design, shaped like an oval, is quite narrow and features curves demanding quick handling. The guide emphasizes that since strong braking is not needed in corners, car settings should prioritize suspension to maximize cornering performance on this track. The screenshots show in-game views of the course at night, confirming the Night Ground theme, and displaying gameplay information like speed and lap times. The text suggests that suspension tuning for cornering will be key to mastering this course. This page details the race event data for Sega GT, outlining the different races available in both normal and reverse track layouts. In the normal mode, you can participate in official races like the A-Class Cup and SAC Class Cup, as well as event races such as the Rinray Novice Car Cup and the Lawson Original Car Cup. There's also a driver license test for B-Class with Rallyart, and a tough single race, Hard. Switching to the reverse track configuration offers events like the Entry Class Special Race, an official race, the Nalite Car Cup, and a driver license test for SA Class, this time with Nismo. The guide highlights 2 featured events, the SAC Class Cup, which is the 3rd race in a series on the Night Ground course, known for being a short, narrow track, emphasizing cornering. It's recommended for cars over 2,000 cc, and securing pole position in qualifying is crucial. The second featured event is the Entry Class Special Race, which is a key challenge for drivers aiming to move up from Entry Class to B-Class. To advance, drivers need a B-Class license and must win both the E-Class Cup and this special race. Even with E-Class cars, this high-speed course remains demanding, requiring a perfect car setup. Screenshots illustrate gameplay from both events, showcasing race information like position, lap times, and the nighttime setting of the Night Ground course. This page is titled Setting Guide, and it's focused on course points in Sega GT. It highlights 2 key points on the track, marked as point 1 and point 2, for both normal and reverse course layouts. For the normal layout, point 1 is about tackling the curve located in the middle of the course. The guide advises early steering input and smooth control to navigate this section. It mentions that the corner exit leads directly into the next corner, so it's important to maintain grip and avoid drifting too wide. When driving the reverse layout, point 2 again addresses the curve, but now in the opposite direction. It points out
that the entry to this corner is tighter in reverse, and going full throttle from the start might be too much. The advice is to reduce speed, be mindful of weight transfer to prevent the rear from sliding, and then accelerate firmly after completing the corner. The course points section elaborates on approaching this curve from the driver's perspective. For the normal directions curve, it suggests starting to steer as soon as you can see the inside wall. For the reverse curve, it emphasizes the need to slow down and shift the weight forward to maximize front tire grip, allowing for a smoother cornering experience. The screenshots on the page show in-game views during these course points, with speedometers indicating the driving style being described. This setting point guide for Sega GT's night ground course focuses on car settings for both normal and reverse layouts. For the normal layout, the emphasis is on suspension, prioritizing understeer to aid cornering. The objective is to balance high-speed engine and transmission settings with a suspension setup that prevents tail slides. The reverse layout follows a similar philosophy, still aiming for understeer and smooth high-speed cornering. However, the tighter S-curves require a quicker setup. Softer stabilizers are recommended for increased grip. The objectives are similar, optimizing engine/transmission for speed within chassis limits and understeer-biased suspension. Specific setting examples are given for spring rate, 7.5 kilograms per millimeter front and rear, and stabilizer, level 3, hard for both. Softer suspension settings are emphasized for the reverse layout, highlighting the importance of front tire grip. Screenshots visually reinforce these adjustments. This page showcases the Night Section A course for Sega GT, labeling it as the most challenging street circuit within the entire game. It mentions that in the Night Section, there are Course A and B, with A being considerably more difficult. The page highlights the course's layout, featuring public roads transitioning to highways, describing it as a challenging layout with blind corners, narrow roads enclosed by walls, and demanding high driving skill. The page includes a game menu screenshot showing options for front drive, rear drive, and four-wheel drive car cups, all set on the Night Section A less than rev greater than course. It also specifies requirements like a C-Class driver's license. A screenshot from an actual race is shown, displaying the in-game HUD with speed, gear, lap time, total time, and a mini-map of the track, along with a mention of unexpected tight corners. This page essentially provides a detailed look at the layout and the challenging nature of the Night Section A course in Sega GT, building upon the previous page's car setting recommendations for night courses. Sega GT features race events categorized under normal and reverse track configurations. Normal races include the Entry Class Cup, C-Class Cup, and others. Reverse races feature events like B-Class Special Race and Front Drive Car Cup. Two attention events are highlighted. The Entry Class Cup, a beginner's race for E-Class cars, emphasizes driving skill over car power. Players are advised to prioritize finishing without errors and experiment with car setups. The Front Drive Car Cup offers a bonus challenge, the W.SK Cup, for accident-free runs. This reverse track race is known for its difficulty, particularly for FWD cars, requiring mastery of car settings and cornering techniques. This page is focused on the setting guide for Sega GT, highlighting key course points for both normal and reverse tracks. It explains that course strategy is important and points out specific areas to pay attention to. For the normal course, designated as Point 1, it mentions that after a high-speed section, a sharp corner appears. The track width narrows, requiring strong braking performance to navigate it successfully. Otherwise, speed will be lost. For the reverse course, designated as Point 2, it notes that it feels significantly different from the normal course. Corners are harder to anticipate, making early steering inputs difficult. At this point, the road surface becomes narrow, and the machine's behavior can become unstable. Considering the continuous corners ahead, smooth driving through this section with proper settings is crucial. The course point section shows two in-game screenshots providing visual context. The first screenshot, labeled with a blue arrow pointing to the text, describes Point 1 as a tight hairpin curve immediately after a straight. It emphasizes the necessity to decelerate firmly to clear it. The second screenshot, again with a blue arrow, describes Point 2 as a section where the machine gets wild. It suggests that speed is easily lost here, so caution is advised. The next page delves into setting up your car for Night Section A in Sega GT, covering both normal and reverse layouts. For the normal course,
The guide points out that Night Section A is all about tight corners after a high-speed run. You'll want quick steering and stability. The advice is to stiffen up the suspension to avoid oversteer, especially the stabilizer. For gearing, set your final gear based on the fastest part of the track right before point 1. The goal is to minimize understeer when braking by making the suspension firmer and setting the brake balance slightly towards the rear, as shown in the example setting of 58% front and 42% rear brake bias. For the reverse course, the approach shifts slightly. Quickness through corners is key, even if it means a little sliding. To prevent understeer when braking, you'll want a bit more front grip. The guide emphasizes smooth transitions, quick entries into corners, and smooth exits to avoid spinning out. The overall aim is to maximize grip across the board. For reverse, the setting goals are all about grip. Maximize it with suspension, tires, and downforce. The ideal setup should give you a hint of oversteer when braking and shifting weight forward, and a touch of understeer when accelerating. The example settings suggest maxing out downforce both front and rear to level 4, and using racing springs, with a slightly stiffer rear setup at 8.5 kilograms per millimeter compared to the front's 8.0 kilograms per millimeter. This page focuses on Night Section B in Sega GT. It highlights that while it's also a city course like Night Section A, this section is faster, with longer full-throttle sections and gentler corners. The guide emphasizes that stability in high-speed corners is key here. Although shorter than Night Section A, lap times can feel even faster. The text mentions that setting up your car for grip is crucial to match the course's characteristics and avoid a stressful driving experience. The page includes a track map of Night Section B and 2 in-game screenshots showcasing the race action. One screenshot shows a purple car at 167 km per hour during lap time 026606. The other screenshot shows a yellow car at a much higher speed of 323 km per hour in 6th gear on lap 1 of 3, with a total time of 045720 and fastest lap at 001172. A small text box points out that maintaining speed through corners is important, and cornering stability is a key point for this section. The Sega GT race event data details various races under normal and reverse layouts. Normal races include cups for different car classes, driver tests, and single races. Reverse layouts feature endurance and rear-wheel drive events. 2 events are highlighted. The NA Small Car Cup, for under 1,000 cc naturally aspirated cars, emphasizes top speed tuning and stable driving on the fast Night Section B course. The Rear Drive Car Cup, AWSK event, unlocked after the game's ending, challenges players to master rear-wheel drive car control on the tighter Night Section A track, focusing on smooth driving and car setup to counter oversteer. Screenshots showcase both races at night, displaying race information and car speeds. This page is about the setting guide and course points in Sega GT. It details 2 key points on the track for both normal and reverse layouts. For the normal course, point 1 highlights a series of linked corners, where smooth acceleration and speed control are crucial. Maintaining revs here is important for straight-line speed, so gear selection is key. For the reverse layout, point 2 focuses on the 90-degree corner at the back straight end. The course narrows considerably, demanding firm braking and stable cornering. The guide advises a setup that shifts weight forward during deceleration to reduce understeer. The page includes track maps, visually indicating these points, and screenshots showcasing in-game racing with speedometers and race data displayed. One tip highlights the importance of keeping engine revs high in technical sections. Another tip warns about full braking potentially locking the wheels in the reverse layout. This page continues the Sega GT setting point guide, now focusing on Night Section B. It outlines setting points for both normal and reverse layouts, providing goals for each to optimize your car. For the normal layout, the guide aims for stable cornering with slight understeer. It recommends stiffening the suspension and stabilizer bars. The final gear should be adjusted to suit the straight-end corner, suggesting a setting that works well for medium-speed corners. For the reverse layout, the guide suggests a generally stiffer suspension setup, especially stiffening the rear stabilizer slightly more than the front. This is to prevent oversteer during acceleration. It also mentions that while transmission and engine settings are generally similar to the normal layout, corner angles might differ, requiring fine adjustments. The page features gameplay screenshots with speedometers, showcasing the game in action. It also shows a setting menu focused on stabilizer adjustments for the front and rear of the car, with levels indicated. A tip emphasizes that the stabilizer should be slightly stiffer at the rear, especially when braking. The next page introduces the Industrial 400, a 400-meter zero-ion drag race event in Sega GT. This event is all about acceleration, taking place on a course designed for straight-line speed with no elevation changes. The guide emphasizes that this is a race from a standstill, highlighting the importance of acceleration performance. The setting guide points out that acceleration is key. It advises against excessive wheel spin at the start, and recommends choosing a gear ratio that provides smooth acceleration, not just a close ratio setup. Suspension should be stiff to keep the car stable. Engine tuning should be maximized. Specific setting recommendations include a fully tuned engine with full boost, a transmission geared for acceleration rather than top speed, hard suspension settings with less focus on front-rear balance. No brakes are needed for this event, so no brake settings are required. Soft tires for maximum grip on the road, and aerodynamic parts set for downforce with adjustable angles. Essentially, everything should be geared towards pure, powerful acceleration for this short, intense race. This page introduces the Heat Stage 1000 event in Sega GT. This is a 1,000-meter-long straight course where the goal is to achieve the highest possible top speed. Unlike the shorter acceleration-focused zero-ion race, this event requires you to maintain and extend your speed over a longer distance. The guide stresses that simply accelerating quickly is not enough. You need to smoothly build speed all the way to the finish line. For car settings, the guide suggests a similar approach to the previous event, but with an emphasis on top speed. Engine tuning should still be full power with full boost. The transmission should be configured to keep the engine in its torque band, carefully selecting gears to reach maximum velocity around the 1,000-meter mark. Suspension should be hard, and front-rear balance isn't a major concern. Brakes are not necessary for this event either. Soft, grippy tires are still recommended for good road holding. Aerodynamic parts should be adjusted to minimize air resistance and maximize top speed, even if it means slightly reducing downforce. Finding the right balance between grip and minimizing drag is key to success in this high-speed challenge. You can see in the screenshot that reaching speeds over 300 km per hour is the target for this event. To unlock the regular ending and WSK Cup in Sega GT, win all official and event races, excluding driver tests and works cups. Achieve the grand ending, staff roll watch mode, by completing all WSK Cups, again, excluding driver tests, works cups. Unlock the Impreza WRX Type R, tuned by STI, by becoming the top driver in every class/manufacturer in driver test, and completing the car file. Win all official and event races, including series races, and then get the grand ending to access the Reynolds car body for C-Class. Display all car keys in the car file to unlock the minicab truck TD2WD. Watch mode lets you spectate computer races, accessible via the replay booth by pressing L+R+A. For a financial head start, at the mode select screen after selecting New Game and Championship, press L+R+Y+A for 100 million, once only. This page is Chapter 6, and is titled Data Collection for Sega GT Homologation Special. It mentions that this section contains specifications for all the cars featured in the game, as well as information on race prize money and prize cars, all compiled to be helpful for players. It also notes that a glossary is included at the end of the book, for reference should anything in the main text be unclear. The next page details the structure of the championship mode in Sega GT. It breaks down the mode into key areas, starting with championship itself, which leads to license race and official race and event race. License race takes you to driver license and driver test, and then works cup. Official race branches into class cup and class special race. The chart then moves into car-related options, with car select and car dealer, where you can make or select and buy or sell used cars. Tuning is a large section allowing you to upgrade various aspects of your car, including engine, with options like NA and turbo stages, supercharger, and muffler. Drivetrain lets you tune transmission and clutch. Suspension includes suspension kit and stabilizer. You can also tune brakes, tire and wheel, and reduce car weight. Further down the chart is carrozzeria, with a factory option to customize elements like displacement, engine, chassis, body select, and complete customization. Finally,
Information, car file, and memory card options are listed, presumably for accessing game data, car information, and saving game progress. Sega GT's Championship mode features several race types. License races include driver tests, entry to C-class cars, license dependent, and Works Cups, entry to C cars requiring top driver test times and manufacturer cars. Official races are Class Cups and Class Special races. Entry to Seiko license and displacement restrictions. You must win lower tiers to advance. Event races offer 18 types with specific conditions.
Car management includes car select, car dealer, license-dependent car purchases, and used car sales. Tuning is available except for works cars. Carrozzeria Factory customizes vehicles. Requires factory licenses for B, A, and SA classes, allowing adjustments to displacement, engine type, chassis, body select, and color. Information displays regulations, records, and sponsor status. Car file provides car information. License required. Memory card handles saving/loading, minigame downloads, and car exchanges. This page showcases a comprehensive vehicle list for the game, organized into classes E and B. The list categorizes cars by their in-game status, such as new car, used car, minigame, works, and awarded car. This table details the official car name within the game, the manufacturer, engine displacement, drive system, and model number for a wide range of vehicles. For instance, in Class E, you'll find vehicles like the Subaru Plio RS, Suzuki Alto Works, Cappuccino, and Daihatsu Mira TR. Class B features cars such as the Isuzu Gemini, Toyota Sprinter True-Mino, and Corolla 11, Nissan Pulsar, Honda Civic, Mazda Roadster, and Mitsubishi Mirage Cyborg. This detailed list gives players a clear overview of the vast selection of cars available in Sega GT. This page continues the vehicle specifications list, providing detailed measurements for each car. The table includes metrics such as total length, total width, total height, tread, wheelbase, and the initial vehicle weight, further broken down into front and rear axle weights. This page appears to be a continuation of the vehicle data presented previously. This page continues the list of vehicle specifications, moving on from dimensions to engine and suspension details. It presents a table listing various cars with their in-game names, horsepower, PS, initial power output, and torque figures, along with the type of front and rear suspension each car uses. Many different suspension types are mentioned, including strut, I.E.O.T, double wishbone, 3-link, trailing arm, Didion, compound crank, leaf spring, 4-link, and multi-link. This page gives a good overview of the performance and handling characteristics of each vehicle through these specifications. This page presents another table continuing the vehicle specifications, focusing on details like tire size, wheel size, engine type, and aspiration. The table lists various cars, detailing the front and rear tire and wheel sizes, engine configurations such as straight 4 DOHC, straight 3 DOHC, and boxer 4 DOHC, along with aspiration types including turbo and supercharger. The final column presents a numerical value, possibly a performance index, multiplied by 1000. This page provides a further breakdown of vehicle characteristics, complementing the engine and suspension details discussed on the previous page. This page continues the detailed vehicle specifications with another table, focusing on initial tuning parameters. It lists various car models like Plio RS, AltoWorks, Cappuccino, Mira TR, Opti Aerodown, Storia X4, Beat, AS1, Topo BJR, Minicab Truck, Gemini C/C, Corolla 11, Sprinter True-Mino, Mr. 2, Pulsar Series, Civic Type R, CRX Sur, Roadster, Mirage Cyborg, and Legacy B4 RSK. The table provides numerical values for initial spring rates for front and rear suspension, initial vehicle height, initial camber angles, initial brake balance between front and rear, and initial downforce settings. This data gives insights into the starting setup of each car's suspension, braking, and aerodynamics within the game. This page presents another table, continuing the vehicle specification details. It seems to focus on gear ratios, showing settings across 7 gears and a final drive for various vehicle setups. The table has columns labeled from first gear up to 7th gear and a final gear,
with numerical values provided in each cell. It looks like detailed performance tuning data related to the transmission of vehicles, probably for in-game customization. Instead of listing individual car models like the previous page, this table seems to offer a broader range of gear ratio options that players might use to fine-tune their cars for different racing conditions or driving styles. This page showcases a detailed list of cars featured in the game. It's presented in a table format and gives you the specifics for each vehicle. You can see a breakdown by car class, ranging from standard vehicles to tuned and prize cars. The list is extensive, covering a wide range of Japanese car manufacturers, including Subaru, Toyota, Nissan, Honda, Mazda, STI, GT 1999, TRD, and Mazda Speed. You'll find popular models like various Subaru Imprezas, Toyota Celicas and Mr. 2s, Nissan Silvia and 180SX models, Honda Integras and S2000, Mazda Roadsters and RX-7s. For each car, the table provides the in-game name, the manufacturer, the year of production, the drive type such as F4, WD, FR, Mr., and FF, and finally, the model code. This page is essentially a car specification sheet, handy for any player wanting to know the details of the vehicles available in the game. This page presents another detailed table of car specifications, continuing from the previous page. This table, labeled a Class Part 1, seems to focus on a specific class of vehicles in the game. The table lists various numerical data points for each car, likely representing dimensions and weight characteristics, broken down into categories like length, width, height, and potentially weight distribution-related metrics. It appears to be further technical specifications for cars within the A-class category in Sega GT. The next page continues with a comprehensive table detailing car specifications. This section of the table lists a wide variety of vehicles, predominantly Japanese models, known for their performance and tuning potential, such as various Subaru Impreza models, Toyota Mr. 2 and Celica, Nissan Silvia and 180SX, Honda Integra and S2000, Mazda RX-7 and Roadster. The table provides key performance figures, like initial horsepower, PS, and torque, kgm, along with their respective RPM values, giving an insight into the engine characteristics of each car. It also details the front and rear suspension types, indicating whether they are strut, multi-link, or double wishbone setups, which is crucial information for handling and vehicle dynamics in the game. This data-rich table appears to be a valuable resource for players looking to understand the performance characteristics of different cars available in the game. This page continues the detailed car specification table, listing a variety of vehicles and their technical details. The table includes information on tire sizes for front and rear wheels, wheel sizes, engine type, and aspiration. Engine types mentioned include Boxer 4 DOHC, Straight 4 DOHC, Straight 6 DOHC, and rotary engines. Aspiration types are turbo, naturally aspirated, and supercharger. The final column contains numerical values, likely performance metrics for each car. This page provides further in-depth specifications for car enthusiasts and players looking to understand the technical differences between various vehicles in the game. This page presents another section of the car specifications, continuing from the previous page. It's a table filled with detailed technical data for a long list of cars, likely within the game. We see columns detailing the initial spring rates for both front and rear suspensions, the initial vehicle height, initial camber angles, and initial brake balance, all split for front and rear. Finally, there are columns for initial downforce settings. Looking at the car names, there's a heavy focus on Japanese models, like various Imprezas, Celicas, Mr. 2s, Altezas, Silvias, Integras, RX-7s, and Roadsters. It's clear this page is for players who really want to get into the nitty-gritty of car setup and understand the starting points for tuning their vehicles within the game. This page continues the car specification data and presents a table detailing gear ratios. The table lists cars, categorized by their initial gear number, showing the gear ratios for each gear from 1st to 6th or 7th speed, and also the final drive ratio. It looks like more technical data for players who want to understand car tuning in the game, specifically focused on the transmission and gearing. This page presents a detailed car specification list, categorized for the game. It seems to be a reference for car enthusiasts playing the game.
with cars listed in classes A and C, and further defined by game categories such as Works, New Car, Used Car, Minigame, and Prize Car. The table provides the in-game official car names, the game maker, engine displacement, drive system, and model number for each car. You can see a range of manufacturers like Mazda, Mitsubishi, Subaru, Toyota, Nissan, Honda, and even cars listed under the GT 1999 and STI brands. The cars range from popular models like Mazda Roadster, various Lancer Evolution and Impreza models, different generations of Skyline GT-RS, Supra, Fairlady Z, NSX, GTO, and more. The specifications cover engine sizes from around 2 liters to over 3 liters, and drive types, including FR, FF, F4, WD, and Mr. It looks like a comprehensive vehicle roster for players to choose from within the game. This page continues the car specification details, still within the A and C classes. It's a table focusing on the physical measurements and weights of the cars listed previously. You can see detailed specifications covering things like overall length, width, and height, as well as the front and rear tread measurements. It also lists the wheelbase and the initial vehicle weight, broken down further into front and rear axle weights. This page is clearly for players who really want to dig into the nitty-gritty details of each car's handling and physical properties within the game. This page continues detailing car specifications, still within the same game context. It's presented as a table that lists various car models and their performance stats alongside suspension types. You'll see columns for horsepower, PS, initial power and torque figures at specific RPMs, and then the front and rear suspension types. The suspension types are listed as strut, multi-link, and double wishbone. Essentially, this page gives you a breakdown of engine performance in terms of power and torque at different engine speeds, combined with the type of suspension setup each car uses for both front and rear wheels. It's more performance-focused than the previous page, which was about physical dimensions. This page continues the car specifications with a detailed table. It outlines various car configurations focusing on tire and wheel sizes, engine types, and aspiration. You can see columns for front and rear tire sizes, front and rear wheel sizes, engine format and aspiration, which is either NA, naturally aspirated, or turbo. Engine types listed include straight 4 DOHC, V-Type 6 DOHC, Boxer 6 and 4 DOHC, and rotary. It looks like another set of detailed performance parameters for different car setups within the game. This page continues the detailed car specifications, presenting an extensive table of car settings. The table lists various car models and their initial settings, including front and rear spring rates, initial vehicle height for both front and rear, initial camber angle also for front and rear. It also details initial brake balance split between front and rear, and initial downforce stages, again for front and rear. Looking at some of the cars, you can see models like the Mazda Speed Roadster, various Lancer Evolution models, FTO GPX, El Saiwan SVX, Impreza 22B STI, Chaser Tour vs Turbo, Supra RZ and SZR, different Skyline models including GTR and 25 GT variations, Fairlady Z, NSX types and GTO models, and even some tuned versions like the Pennzoil Nismo GTR and Ralliart GTO Twin Turbo. This page provides a very detailed breakdown of the initial setup parameters for a wide range of cars in the game, allowing players to understand the starting characteristics of each vehicle before making any tuning adjustments. It's a great resource for players who want to dive deep into car customization and performance. This page shows another detailed table of car specifications, this time focusing on gear ratios. It presents a table listing different initial gear ratios and the corresponding ratios for each gear from 1st to 7th, along with the final drive ratio. The table is structured with initial gear number as the first column, followed by columns for each gear and the final drive. It appears to be a continuation of the car specification information, providing detailed gear information for various vehicles within the game. The note at the bottom clarifies that this data is based on in-game information and may differ from real-world car specifications, having been compiled independently by the guidebook editors. This page details the race driver test trial data and is divided into 2 main sections: official race and event. Under official race, you'll find different class cups like entry class cup, B class cup, A class cup, and C class cup,
along with special races for each class. The events section lists various car cups and races, such as Wanda Novice Car Cup, Lawson Original Car Cup, McDonald's Open Race, and Time Attack. And tournament events like Ajinomoto Time Attack and 0400 Tournament. For each race or event, the table specifies the used courses, the number of laps, and the target cars. Courses listed include names like Sky Peak Track, Great Rock Road, Night Section A, Snowy Mountain, and Solid Circuit. The number of laps varies from 2, 3, and even up to 15 for the Bridgestone Endurance Race. The target car column uses symbols explained at the bottom of the page. Means original car, means works car, and means city car. This table seems to be outlining the different races and events available, along with the conditions for each. The next page continues the information about race regulations. This table outlines the entry requirements based on engine displacement, license, and other conditions. It shows that for lower displacement categories like 1000 cc and 1600 cc, you need an E or B license respectively, with some races restricting entry to those who haven't won official races in lower classes. For the 2000 cc and unlimited categories, A and C licenses are required, with similar restrictions based on winning races in lower classes. Interestingly, there are also categories with engine tuning restrictions, applicable to 1000 cc, 1900 cc, and unlimited classes, where tuned engines are not allowed. Other categories specify NA car limited, meaning only naturally aspirated cars can participate. Finally, a large section at the bottom lists numerous unlimited displacement categories that only require an E license and have no other special conditions, suggesting very open race options are available. Sega GT features diverse race events categorized by type. The WSK Car Cup series includes front, rear, and four-wheel drive races on specific tracks using original, works, or city cars. The License Works Cup focuses on works cars across various classes, entry B-A, on varied tracks. The extensive Licensed Driver Test section presents single-lap tests across different classes, entry B-A-C, affiliated with manufacturers, using a wide selection of circuits. The trial section offers factory license trials, BAC, with single-lap races on various tracks. Lastly, the single race section offers easy, normal, and hard difficulty levels with races on different tracks, and generally does not specify car restrictions, with some single races specifying original cars. This page details race regulations for Sega GT, categorized by engine displacement limits, license requirements, and other entry conditions. For races with no engine displacement limit, there are front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and four-wheel drive specific events, and, importantly, you are restricted from participating if you have already won all official and event races. For engine sizes of 1000 cc, 1600 cc, and 2000 cc or less, specific licenses are required E, B, and A respectively. If you achieve a first place in the license test for these classes from a manufacturer, you are eligible to enter. For the 1600 cc and 2000 cc and under engine classes, a Class B or Class A factory license is additionally necessary. Many other entries in the table list none for other conditions, which likely means standard race entry rules are in effect for those categories. This page outlines the prize money structure for various races in Sega GT. The page is structured as a table, detailing the prize amounts for different race categories such as Official Race, Event, WSK, and License Works Cup. Within Official Race, there are different classes like Entry, B, A, and C class cups, as well as special races for each class. These races offer prize money for A position, champion, first, second, and third place. For example, the SAC Class Cup offers a substantial $800,000 for P position and $8 million for champion prize. The event category lists various sponsored races like Wanda Novice Car Cup, Rinray Novice Car Cup, NTT Communications Novice Car Cup, and many more. These events also have prize money for different placements.
WSK category includes races such as Bridgestone Endurance, Front Drive Car Cup, Rear Drive Car Cup, and Four-Wheel Drive Car Cup, with significant prize money listed, particularly for the higher positions. Finally, the License Works Cup section features races like Entry Class Works Cup, B Class Works Cup, A Class Works Cup, and SA Class Works Cup, providing prize money as well. In general, the table shows a tiered prize system with higher class races and special events offering larger payouts, rewarding players for performance across various race types and skill levels in Sega GT. This page continues the prize money breakdown for races in Sega GT. It looks like it details the prize money for 4th, 5th, and 6th positions, alongside prize money adjustments based on driver type, labeled as E, B, S, and SE driver classes. The table is filled with numerical values, presumably representing the prize amounts in the game's currency, but it's mostly repetitive numbers across the rows and driver types. Essentially, it's an extension of the previous page's prize money table, providing further detail on rewards in Sega GT for lower placements and considering driver skill level. This page presents a breakdown of prize cars in what appears to be a racing game guide. The page is divided into two main sections: prize cars data and minigame prize cars. The prize cars data section lists various race categories like official race, event, WSK, and License Works Cup, each with subcategories like Entry Class Cup, B Class Cup, A Class Cup, and SE Class Cup. For each race, a specific car is listed as the prize. For example, the Entry Class Cup in Official Race awards AZ Turbo. Other listed prize cars include models like Mirage Cyborg ZR, S2000, GTO Twin Turbo Mister, and Roadster RS in the official race category. The event section features races with names like McDonald's Open Race and Anna Open Race, offering cars such as Roadster Special Package and Sprinter Truno GT Apex as prizes. The WSK and License Works Cup sections continue this pattern, listing different race types and corresponding prize cars, including Supra TRD 3000 GT and Skyline GTR tuned by Nismo. The minigame prize cars section is a table detailing specific cars awarded in the 6th Cup race for different manufacturers. For example, Isuzu offers the Gemini C/C, Suzuki provides the AltoWorks RS/Liz, and Nissan awards the Silvia Spec R Aero as prizes. Other manufacturers listed include Subaru, Daihatsu, Toyota, Honda, Mazda, and Mitsubishi, each with a specific prize car model. This page continues the breakdown of prize cars and their conditions from the previous page. It seems to detail different criteria for obtaining specific vehicles within the game. The page is structured into two condition columns, labeled Condition 1 and Condition 2, alongside a Prize Car Part 2 column listing the cars themselves. Under Condition 1, we see entries like Victory and First Victory, while Condition 2 lists Complete Victory and Victory 2 or more times. Several cars are associated with these conditions. For example, for a regular victory, you could win cars like the Cappuccino, Pulsar Series VZRN1 version 2, Roadster Spec, and Chaser Tourer vs Turbo TRD Sports. Achieving a complete victory also rewards you with prize cars, and some cars like the Z Turbo, Pulsar Series VZR, Skyline GTR Nismo, and Fini RX-7 Type RB Bathurst, Savannah RX-7, and Impreza 22 BSTI are listed as prizes for First Victory or Victory 2 or more times. At the bottom, there's a section titled Win All Cup Races, listing cars such as the Gemini C/C, Cappuccino, Impreza 2-door WRX Type RSTI version V, Storia X4, Supra RZ Twin Turbo, Skyline GTR Verspec, NSX Type S0, RX-7 Type R, and GTO Twin Turbo. These appear to be the ultimate prize cars for conquering all cup races in the game. The next page is a glossary of driving and car terms. It starts with out and out, which describes a cornering technique to maximize speed by entering wide, clipping the apex, and exiting wide again. Accelerator work refers to the subtle throttle adjustments needed while cornering to control grip and recover from slides. R, or radius, is explained as a numerical value indicating the sharpness of a corner, smaller numbers meaning tighter corners. Moving on to vehicle types, RWD stands for rear-wheel drive, listing FR, Mr., and RR as engine placement variations. Understeer is when the car runs wide in a corner because the front tires lose grip. ANA means natural aspiration, referring to engines without forced induction, known for high revving power. The page then covers FWD for front-wheel drive, where the engine is typically placed in front of the front axle. Oversteer is the opposite of understeer, where the rear tires lose grip causing the car to spin inwards, often called quick-spin cars. Overrev is explained as exceeding the engine's safe RPM limit, common during downshifts, and can damage the engine. Countersteer is the technique of steering in the opposite direction of a skid to regain control. Finally, supercharger or turbocharger is described as forced induction systems that increase power by feeding more air into the engine cylinders. Turbochargers use exhaust gas to spin a turbine, while superchargers use engine power to drive a compressor. This glossary defines car terms. Weight transfer describes how acceleration affects weight balance. Camber refers to tire angle, with negative camber improving cornering. Crank describes tight, almost right-angle corners. Clipping point is the inside point of a corner, varying with speed. Close ratio transmission offers close gear ratios for faster acceleration, while wide ratio is the opposite. Suspension connects tires and chassis, including springs and dampers. Shift change is gear changing. Stabilizer balances suspension movement and reduces body roll. Steering is the direction system, with the steering wheel as the interface. Supercharger is mentioned again. Spring absorbs road shocks and G-forces, and spring rate describes spring stiffness, significantly impacting handling. This glossary defines several car terms. A slide occurs when tires lose grip during cornering. Slow in, fast out is a cornering technique. The throttle controls the air-fuel mixture. Driving stability measures a car's resistance to sudden inputs. Downforce pushes a car to the ground, improving cornering. Angle of bank describes a corner's incline. Tuck-in is used in FWD cars to reduce understeer. Damper absorbs shocks with the suspension. A tail slide is when the rear wheels lose grip. Traction is tire-to-road power transfer. The transmission uses gears to deliver torque. Drift is when all wheels lose grip, directed forward. Drift angle is the angle between the car's direction and intended line. This glossary covers car terminology related to cornering and vehicle characteristics. Key cornering terms include: cornering focuses on rapid acceleration. Neutral steer describes a car's directional response. Partial throttle brake use. Power band highlights the engine's optimal power range. Boost pressure refers to turbo supercharger pressure. Complex corner describes multiple curves. And blind corner is one where the exit is hidden. Other terms include torque, engine power, tread, tire distance, 4WD, four-wheel drive, wheelbase, wheel distance, muffler, exhaust noise reduction, midship, engine placement, mechanical grip, grip from mechanical parts, ride height, ground clearance, and roll amount, car's outward lean in corners. This page appears to be the title page of a guidebook. It states, "Game content inquiries by telephone are not accepted at all. Please understand." Then it highlights Dreamcast Complete Capture Strategy Series 5 inches, and the main title, Sega GT Homologation Special Fastest Setting Guide. It also mentions the date of first publication as April 15, 2000, and lists the editorial and publishing details, including names of people in roles like editor, writer, data, digital illust and design, and company names like Futabasha and Recruit Computer Publishing. The bottom of the page contains copyright information for Sega Enterprises and Futabasha, along with the ISBN code. This page introduces the content of the Sega GT Homologation Special Guidebook. It outlines 6 chapters that will help players master the game. Chapter 1. High-speed driving theory delves into the fundamental question of What does it mean to drive fast? And aims to build essential knowledge for setting up your car. Chapter 2. Setting Parts Explanation breaks down the customizable parts within the game, explaining their roles and key points for setting them up effectively. Chapter 3. Practical Setting Manual acts as a hands-on guide to setting up your car for various driving situations, like acceleration, deceleration, cornering stability, and overall driving performance. Chapter 4. Drive System Specific Setting Guide provides advice on ideal settings tailored to different drive systems, including front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and four-wheel drive vehicles. Chapter 5. Course Specific Setting Guide focuses on the game's 12 courses, offering setting points for each track to optimize performance. Finally, Chapter 6. Data Collection serves as a resource for useful information, compiling vehicle specifications, race data, prize car data, and more.